the bad and the weird. You either live by the gun or you die by the sword.
Welcome to The Good, the Bad, and the Weird. I'm Nico.
And I'm Chris.
And we have returned again for our final installment of the Peter Jackson adaptations of The Lord of the Rings.
The Return of the King.
Part 2. And so, where we left off, just to give a brief recap, Grond had appeared. Frodo had thrown Sam to the wayside because Frodo's a little emo dick.
He is. Sam is crying by himself on a mountain.
And Rohan is on their way.
Slowly but surely.
Yeah. And before...
and our main trio, Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli, have in fact raised the dead.
Yes. As has been spoiled beforehand.
Yes.
And before we dive into it, so we don't forget it, what are we drinking today, Chris?
You are drinking wine.
I'm drinking like a third of a bottle of wine today.
Because your mug holds an impressive amount. Yeah,
but not like a tall boy of iced tea.
That's obnoxious.
It is.
That's obnoxious.
It holds like a third of it, though. Or no, sorry, not 2/3 of it or something. So. And what are you drinking?
I'm having Diet Coke because true celebration.
What?
Diet Coke is the finest of liquids.
All right.
This is my addiction. Do not judge me. Much like Smeagol in The Ring, I will kill a bitch over some Diet Coke.
All right.
I will throw you into a mountain for Diet Coke.
All right. I mean, to each their own.
Yes.
Prost.
Prost.
Good old barefoot wine.
Uncaffeinated.
Yes. I've been drinking it at night with whiskey, so it's not caffeinated.
Did you or did you not get an architecture degree? You should be caffeine just resistant by this point.
That's the issue, is that I'm resistant to feeling it until I'm trying to sleep.
Ah, that's what melatonin's for. You chug a ton of caffeine and then you chug a bunch of melatonin and then you don't wake up.
I would like to wake up.
Oh, I see. I can't help you with that.
And so the second half of the DVD of The Return of the King starts off with a courser ship, but Aragorn hails them to stop.
Yes.
I do like, and we see this repeatedly of the humans in the movies trying to convince the other humans that, hey, you guys kind of are on the wrong path. Like,
yeah, like it's not too late. Come on over.
Yeah,
like we can work this out. And
Legolas in his warning shot that Gimli fucks up.
I love Gimli's fuckery here.
Gimli's a dickhead.
He is, but I love it.
Yeah.
Gimli is the epitome of bro.
Well, I love it too because it kills the Peter Jackson cameo.
It does. Which makes me laugh even more because Peter Jackson he takes his background roles very seriously.
Yeah.
And so he decided not to wear knee pads or elbow pads or anything for this. And they had to retake it like 3 or 4 times. Huh. And so he kept hitting the deck really hard with all his weight. And all of the writers were like, no one can see that. He goes, I know, but I felt it.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I mean, also, the coursers are very minimal in this movie, too.
Oh, yeah. They really are.
I couldn't find... I don't remember the design team actually even talking about, like, their designs or anything.
Not really.
The only thing I remember them mentioning is they said it was, like, their Klingon moment. Because a lot of them have, like, the forehead creases and whatnot.
Yeah, and, like, they tried to do a little bit of inspiration from a few places, but they didn't want to, like, call out any one culture too hard.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of here you go.
Yeah. And in a way, they are kind of an offshoot of a different group of men. Mm-hmm. The Coursers they're also called the Coursers of Umbar. At one point, they were the Black Númenóreans, which I think I talk about a little bit later, but basically, they're the Númenóreans who, after the fall of Númenor, decide to hate the elves and the Valar and become distrustful. Yes. So they're the line that split from Aragorn's family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The opposite, because this is Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. But later they were conquered by the Harad, which is who we see in this movie, and they have a very what's the term? It's a very almost Mongolian-esque feel as the stereotypical Mongolian.
Yeah, and they were also supposed to have some inspiration from a couple of places, some Aztec pieces here and there, and also a little bit of Pacific Island.
Not with these guys.
Okay, the later ones.
That's the later ones. Specifically, the Coursers don't have that feeling to them.
They're kind of forgettable.
Yeah, they really are. But
that's okay, because we're immediately going to kill them.
Yeah.
We see them, they're dead.
They laugh in their face, and we see the Army of the Dead attack them.
And I love how the Army of the Dead needs boats to get there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Aragorn and Legolas and Gimli need a boat, so...
Yes. Well, it's nice and sneaky. That way we don't see the giant horde of ghosts crawling across the landscape.
Actually, yeah, it's a sneak attack.
It's a sneak attack.
It's to decrease their morale. You throw dead heads on our side, we send a whole ghost army after you.
We throw a whole dead person on your side.
Yeah. No, we let the dead person speak for themselves and charge into battle.
Yeah. On their own accord.
Yeah. And so from here, we cut back to Frodo being led into the tunnel by Smeagol.
I love the spider tunnels.
Because, shocking to no one, it is a trap.
It is a trap.
But they did a good job with disorienting you.
Yes.
Especially with the undulating caves and
like, unlike a lot of caves that we see in movies, these ones properly feel like burrowed out, as opposed to just like a cave that was found and now a spider lives here. These feel like dug.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like the Alien versus Predator hole in the side of a mountain.
Yes, where it's like, this cave feels fake.
Yeah.
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 These caves feel like really nice, and I also like that the way that we've got the camera moving quickly through here, you get glimpses of like bones that like you don't really register. Yeah. You're like, wait, spider,
little bits here and there.
Yeah, it's just enough to like really like, especially if you haven't seen it before, you don't necessarily 100% know what's coming.
Yeah.
You get those little sneak peeks of like, oh, this is gonna be spiders.
Yeah, well, and I like that we get this cutting back and forth because Sam discovers the treachery.
Of course.
One, I don't think, it doesn't look like the Lembas fell too far.
I feel like we could have, instead of crushing it, maybe put it in our pocket.
Yeah.
And like, gone back with it.
But it wouldn't have led to Sam discovering the treachery kind of thing.
No, and it is a very impactful moment.
Yeah, and also the reason it's gotten rid of is Smeagol's not looking for them to actually, like, survive.
No, and I think at this point of the movie, like, this is the exact moment where Sam goes, damn it all if we live or die. Like, we're getting to the mountain. Yeah,
because Sam's crawling down, he's crying, and then he falls he slips and falls.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that is, You feel bad for him because he's come all this way and now he's having to go back alone.
Yeah, which is the worst. And he'd been planning on taking Frodo back this whole time.
But it also just allows for, like, the building of, like, going back to Frodo and, like, Frodo's in real danger.
Yes.
But, speaking of the spider webs.
Yes.
Are spider webs just spider architecture?
Okay. Yes and no. Because we do know that spider webs are a type of spider art to an extent, but they're also functional.
Yeah.
But if you do enough drugs as a spider, your spider web does change.
Same thing with the house.
Same thing with the house. You know which one's the drug house. Specifically the one built by the drug people. That one looks special.
I'm still not convinced Frank Gary's not on some shit.
I could see it.
Yeah.
There's some angles going on in there that I have no desire to work with.
The front of his house.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
But you know what? You know his name, and I think that's what he wanted.
Yeah, and I mean, he was also the pioneer of computer-aided modeling and design.
Which we all use every day, so, I mean, you can't be perfect all the time.
No. None of us are perfect.
Especially not architecture.
Oh, yeah. But fun fact about the little spider webs, they're made of a polymer that was dripped into cold water, but it was the biggest pain in the ass to make because if it was too cold, it gooped. If it was too hot, it caught fire.
Oh, I love the chance of fire.
Yeah, it was a pain in the ass.
I bet.
And also the little bodies that you were mentioning.
Yes, I love them.
They were from a local taxidermist that Weta borrowed from.
Oh, that's very nice of them to let them borrow their little bodies.
Yeah. But I do like this part in the movie has a pretty big payoff.
Yes,
because
it really does.
We kind of forget about the magic vial.
Mm-hmm.
That
you completely forgotten about the light.
Mm-hmm.
The little flashlight that he's been given.
Yeah, well, yeah.
The glow worms.
The elf flashlight. I mean, Sam would appreciate that, but...
Yes.
But yeah, it does take a long time, and that's the other thing of, like, the gifts that we talk about at the end of the Fellowship. Of them, the only ones that feel like they're put to use are Sam's rope.
Yes, very much so.
And that we only see that really in the start of the second movie.
A practical gift.
And the vial of Galadriel.
Yeah, and, like, you could argue that, like, oh, well, the cloaks are super useful.
Yeah.
And, like, the pins to Merry and Pippin ended up kind of being useful because those don't just fall off, apparently.
Yeah.
But, like, as far as, like, pointing out the gifts as, like, in the movie, yeah, the vial's kind of the one.
Yeah, I mean...
Even the rope is kind of
well
harshly in the film.
Legolas got a bow. I mean, for the most part, we do see them used, but just not in a special way.
Yeah, because Legolas's bow, you almost immediately forget is special.
And also, Gimli asked for 3 strands of hair, or a strand of hair.
And she gave him 3 because Gimli is a special boy.
Yeah. Could have picked something that would have been more helpful, but...
He did pick something helpful. He bridged the gap between his people and the elves.
Not really.
No, he didn't. But, like, the idea's there.
Yeah, I guess it's a change of the dwarfish tone.
Especially since, if you look back, his dad was a very large elf hater.
A lot of them were.
That whole party was.
Yeah.
And then it just didn't get better for his dad. So I feel like this is a big step for Gimli and his family.
Yeah, I mean, it's only been a few hundred years.
I mean, he would have grown up on the stories from his dad.
Yeah.
That's the whole reason he came.
I forgot even when Gimli was born.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Dwarf math makes my head hurt, so I have no idea.
Can dwarfs do math?
Oh, yes, very much. Look at the engineering.
I feel like dwarvish architecture isn't so much math-based. It's just like, hey, we built this one way, it didn't collapse. Let's go back at it.
I feel like dwarvish style is engineering, and the elves are purely architecture. And they have magic, so they don't need to have gravity define.
Yeah.
Like, they can just build in a tree, and the tree is fine.
I have not seen any numbers in Lord of the Rings, so I don't believe any of them know math.
That is a possibility.
It's a possibility that math has not even been invented yet.
I would believe that. That would make sense.
Scratch that. They do say numbers of how many army they have.
They can count at least to a couple thousand.
Yeah. Math exists in Middle-earth at some point.
It has to.
Yeah. But back to Shelob's lair.
Yes.
The one thing I always felt weird was when Frodo's running and all of a sudden he's just kind of magically suspended in the webs.
Okay, yeah, it's weird, but I find it kind of charming.
Yeah.
Because, like, it really, really, really strongly reminds me of, like, all of the old computer games where you would be, like, trapped in a web and your character would, like, leap into the air and, like, be suspended. You had to, like, struggle to get free.
It makes me think of that, game in Most Extreme Elimination Challenge.
Yeah.
Fly on the Wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like that.
Like, that's what it reminds me of. And, like, yeah, it's a little over the top and corny, but, like, I don't really care.
Yeah.
Like, it just adds that level of, like, desperation to trying to get away, where, like, he can't even touch the ground properly, can't really move his arms. Like, it just adds that level of, like, distress.
Yeah. No, yeah, he can't get out, and yeah, I get that.
But yeah, I see what you say where it's like, he's just suddenly floating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe he jumped up into it, but
yeah,
it looks like he was just running from the cuts before.
Yeah, it does.
Which I do like this bit as well, because we even realize that Gollum fears Shelob.
Yeah, even he's like, I'm good, I don't want it in there.
Yeah, well, he's like kind of taunting Frodo, like from the shadows of like, she's going to get you.
Yep.
And speaking of Shelob, I'm not actually going to go into the lore because her lore's
deep.
A little bit deeper than a lot of people realize.
Just accept the giant spider.
Yeah.
She has an explanation, and you don't care.
Well, so, just to give pretext of why she's there, Osgiliath was a Valar who sided with Melkor as long as she would give her food or something. Like, he would feed her whatever she found or whatever he found. And she ended up becoming a grotesque spidery. And so Osgiliath retired in Mordor, where she had multiple kids. She ended up dying, and Shelob's one of her offspring. So the spiders have this insatiable hunger. And the reason Sauron allows her to still be there is because she guards a pathway, basically, and he doesn't have to deal with it.
Yes. And I mean, like, it's a fantasy. Giant spider is the least of our problems. Yeah,
well, of the design of the spider, it's based on the tunnel web spider that Jackson has a distinct disdain for, because
they're little spiders in Australia that build, like, New Zealand, and, like, they build little down. We have something kind of similar here, where, like, in the grass they'll build little funnels down. They're not really that dangerous, but they are everywhere.
Yeah, and that's what his complaint was. Like, they'd scare him as a kid, and so he just hates them.
Yes,
which they also kept one in the office to observe.
And honestly, it works really well, because out of the giant spiders in movies, she's the most believable by a long shot for me.
And that's because they didn't want to make her just a spider. So they tried to make it humanistic at times.
Which works, because especially if you, like, actually study a spider, like, they have a lot of emotions that you don't necessarily associate with a wild spider.
Yeah.
Like, you get them trapped in, like, they wave their little arms and, like, they do different postures. They don't just scuttle.
Yeah, it's not just like, oh, it attacks.
Yeah.
Spins webs.
Yeah.
They actually have body language compared to, like, a bumblebee, I'd say.
Yeah, like, it's all different. And they captured that really well with having her bring her arms in to hide originally. And then also, like, when she is scuttering, it's not just all one speed scuttering.
Yeah.
Which to me is always, like, the quickest way to see, like, all right, CGI spider that you put a little effort in.
Yeah.
But, like, having her move different speeds and, like, have her recalibrate.
Well, and
she moves like a spider.
Well, and they also made her asymmetrical, too, so that way she wasn't, like, she didn't feel like a stock image.
Yeah.
And so they made her rather cancerous looking and just...
The gloopy eyes work really well. Like, she feels too old to be still going.
Yeah, which they chose, like, a handful of models, and then they handed it off to Jackson and Walsh's kids to decide which one was the grossest.
Perfect.
And that's the one they went with. And on top of that, her music is inspired by the musical score from Cronenberg's The Fly.
Very good.
Because Howard Shore composed that score for The Fly as well.
Of course.
Yeah, and it works. I mean,
it does. It really does.
Jackson does, like I've mentioned before, he does this good job of playing between horror and fantasy.
And this is a really nice tightrope between, like, it doesn't feel as corny as those old creature features where we did have giant spiders, but it also doesn't feel stiff and robotic like the giant spiders from Harry Potter do.
Yeah.
Because, like, those ones, like, there was a giant puppet of that one, which at the time was good, but now when you go back and rewatch it, it feels animatronic.
Yeah, and didn't that one came out after this one, though, too?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
And I like this spider the best. Like, this is my favorite giant movie spider. Mostly because the way she moves feels like a proper monster. Like, she feels sentient.
Yeah. No, it is a really good spider. I'm just trying to think. I don't watch a lot of movies with spiders. The only ones I can think of are, like, Arachnophobia or Eight-Legged Freaks.
Which are good, but, like, because of the way those are shot, like, those spiders don't have a personality.
Yeah.
Like, they're just the scary monster storming through downtown.
Exactly. Like, Earth versus the giant spider kind of feel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is fun, but, like, you're not ever really scared of those spiders.
No.
This spider, like, I can understand the terror of it. Like, I'm not scared of spiders at all, but this is a pretty spooky giant spider.
Yeah. Yeah, they really did a good job, even though she has a relatively small part in the movie.
She does, but I also like...
Small but important part.
Very. The other reason why I think she's as impactful as a, like, side, like, mini-boss almost in the story is because Jackson does a really good job of playing right here with our, like, with that horror sense of escape. So, like, having Frodo almost get away.
Yeah.
And then having the camera angles turn, like, all of that plays really well with his horror experience.
Yes. And before that, because Frodo does get attacked by Gollum or Smeagol outside.
Yeah,
and
that guy.
drives him off.
Yeah, throws him off a cliff. Hopefully he's dead.
Yeah, but he's still kind-hearted. He's trying not to kill Smeagol. But if he had to come to it, he probably would have.
At this point, I think Frodo is broken down enough.
Yeah. And so Frodo escapes, and Galadriel appears in a vision to give him a little bit of hope. The little pocket full of sunshine.
I also like how one of the writers interpreted this as, like, Frodo isn't allowed to die. Mm-hmm. Like, Galadriel is like, no, get up. You have to keep going.
Yeah, you're the last hope. Even though we're leaving, we want this world to flourish after we're gone.
Yeah. Which I kind of like, because I like that interpretation of it.
Yeah.
Where it's like, this is both a gift of hope for you to keep going, but also, like, we really need you to keep going.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting, too, because... And this might be my interpretation of it. But at some point, especially when we've heard about Arwen and like her fate and the fate of men, it feels like at some point the world of men is going to just completely implode, and like there'll be an end to Middle Earth, basically. And the elves are kind of like a precursor of like, we've done all we can. We're gonna leave, and you guys, it's your time to do whatever you guys can.
Yeah, it does. It does feel like that.
Yeah, and I mean, we never actually get a conclusion. So
I mean, yeah, that's kind of the fun of it.
Yeah,
the cycle continues.
Yeah, because from here we cut to Rohan is ready for battle.
Yeah, look at all them horses.
Yeah, which I think it's kind of funny. There's little bits where stuff is not. I don't want to say it wasn't thought out, but it feels kind of missed here and there. Like how I talked about Frodo and Sam's lips are quite different, even though going under very similar conditions.
Yes.
I love how dirty Éowyn is.
Yes.
But Merry is clean as hell looking.
Okay, I have a little tiny bit of theory about this.
Okay.
So she's having to pose as a guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
You would want to stay in armor as much as possible.
Yeah.
Because that would be giving it away. And it's not like nobody knows who she is. Like,
yeah.
So I interpret that as kind of like she's purposefully leaving as much clothes on as possible. She's not washing her face. She's leaving that helmet shoved down on her head no matter how dirty she is, because she's going to fight.
Yeah.
No one's really bitching if the Hobbit comes along and kills itself. But if she goes, then someone's going to complain to her brother.
Yeah, well, good luck with that.
Yeah.
Her brother's dead.
Yes.
Or no. Was that her love interest?
Is that her brother, or is that her love interest?
No, it's her brother.
Oh, well, then her cousin guy. I don't know. They're related somehow, right?
I mean, they all are at one point or another. I mean,
second cousin twice removed, that one.
Something like that, yeah. Yeah, there's a bit about him later.
Yes.
Yeah. But I do like that her helmet is kind of like Thor's hammer a bit-esque.
I do too.
Like
it feels powerful.
It feels powerful, and it also just feels weirdly out of place with everyone else's stuff.
She feels like she got the hand-me-down stuff.
Yeah.
As opposed to like nicer stuff.
She just grabbed whatever was left behind kind of thing. Nothing was super distinct, but also nothing that like really fit in.
Exactly.
Something to cover her face.
Yep.
Yeah. But it is also time for Grond to be brought out fully.
Grond.
He's lead coated to look like, at least.
Yes.
But he is very solid looking.
It's so cool.
Which I think is kind of weird, because Grond is terrifying to begin with.
Yes.
But he's oddly well crafted for orcish design.
Yes, he does not look orcish.
No, he feels, he reminds me a little bit of like Fenrir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, he's definitely not like a taken object. Because it looks like it's a mount that's been redesigned into this giant battering ram that's on fire. Very
actual wolf-like instead of warg-like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it kind of begs the question if maybe one of the men, like groups of men, made this.
Yeah, that's...
As opposed to the orcs or goblins.
That's plausible, because we did see men go into... Actually, We saw men go into Mordor. I don't think we ever saw them come out.
Those were food.
Oh.
I don't know.
I think that'd be a waste of food, though.
It would be.
Better than maggoty bread, I guess.
True.
Meat's back on the menu, boys.
And we saw how many people are in there. There's a lot of dudes to feed.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, there's not a lot of thought of, like, all the supplying of the orcs.
I'm sure somewhere it's thought through. Do not know it.
They've got an orc baker.
Someone's got to make maggoty bread.
Yeah, true. But in Minas Tirith, Denethor is getting worse. He is about to burn his son, and there is there's some good parts to this. So
yes, visually very nice.
I like that he says, "Burn like the heathen kings of old." Yes. Which implies that the entombment in Minas Tirith of the previous kings is something of a more recent, more recent cultural thing in Gondor. Yeah. And before whatever religion, because that's the thing, Middle Earth doesn't really have religion.
At least it's not talked about.
Yeah. Whatever it was that was the tradition of burning their kings.
Yeah, the kings were pyred.
Which is... Because he's also going to burn them in the house.
Which seems like a terrible idea.
Well, stone doesn't burn.
No, but it takes a long time to burn a body. Yeah. Like, it's not a quick...
No. And it's just kind of this weird thing of, like, they're not proper to be buried in the tomb, but it's good enough that they'll be burned in it. Yeah. And also he's bringing them up that, like, hey, we're going to burn like the heathen kings of old. So in a way, we are the heathen kings of old.
Well, and on top of that, this doesn't feel like a fully fleshed out ceremony. Like, I'm sure that even the steward's son would have received a more lavish funeral and procession than a quick changing and cleaning of him. Not even enough for someone to be like, hey, this guy's not dead. Yeah. They, like, snipped the arrows off him, put him in a new shirt, and called it a day.
Well, I'm sure there's been people other than Pippin, who's been telling the king. But the king just ignored everything everyone said.
Yeah. We had a quick procession with him. No mourning from the people or anything. Yeah. We're in war, but this still feels rushed. This feels like the crazy guy said we're burning him in the funeral room, so I guess we're gonna do that. Yeah. No, and it's this weird... No, I keep saying it's this weird. It's not that weird. There's this nice juxtaposition of... We were getting ready for the burning as well, but like how Frodo saw Galadriel and there's those little pockets of sunshine, we're seeing the same thing because we see a flower bloom on the tree in Minas Tirith. Yeah. As they're bringing them into the burning. But yeah, it's a little bit of that build up. Yes, and like it's a good tension too because especially if you're not familiar with the story, this is a side character. Yeah. He very well could burn to death. Well, like, this is a good level of, like, suspense.
Yeah, and it adds tension, too, because Grond does break through. Yeah. And
it looks dope doing it.
Yeah, very cool. Which, every time Grond is not as strong as people, or as firm as people think it is. No. Because they bashed him through the door, and parts would bend. And they have to fix it and put it back in for new places.
Yeah, he's hollow. That's not a very efficient battering ram.
That's the thing. He's not hollow. Because they carved out the frame for him. And then at one point, Peter Jackson's like, oh, it looks good. Can the eyes glow? And they're like, shit. And we didn't think about that. So they carved out a part real quick and made it so the eyes could glow because they wanted. And that's the interesting thing is even though Peter Jackson would come up with some of these small little things at the end, they were all like, oh shit, I'm gonna be working late today. But they all thought it was just so worth it just to.
Oh yeah, like they had so much ownership over these models and stuff,
which I think is amazing, especially for like such a large team to believe in a single person's vision of Lord of the Rings.
Yes. Oh yeah, and I think that's what helped be the unifying factor. So that because we have so many different directions that the people of Middle Earth are coming from, having like at least one overarching like
approval system, because
because otherwise it'd be like how we've seen past Lord of the Rings, where it's kind of all over the place.
Yeah, because you get like one person designing one thing, and then the director's like, well, we don't have time, we got to get it out, kind of stuff. And it's cool to see that happen, because I don't feel we really see that too much anymore. Yeah,
it definitely doesn't seem to happen, at least not on this scale.
Yeah, or at least it's not revealed to us as much.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I don't think I've ever seen another movie that has this level of...
There's so much background stuff on these DVDs.
Yeah. But now that the orcs are coming into Minas Tirith, it's oh no, there's trolls in Minas Tirith.
Oh no. I do like how they snuck some trolls in.
Which, that's another thing of they shot everything and Jackson's like, what if there were trolls?
What if, can we just add some trolls in the background?
Yeah, and that's what they had to do, is they had to show them bursting in and then just randomly show them in the background every now and then. Like,
they add this level of, like, it's like seeing a tank move through alleys in, like, war movies.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, that's bad. Like, there's no hope for normal people holding out against that.
Yeah, and actually, yeah, you're right on that. It does, they do feel different than just, like, the onslaught of the legion of orcs.
Yeah, they have like a weight and power behind them that, like, being overrun by the little ones feels bad, but this feels like the nail in the coffin.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I've made a handful of Harry Potter references just today alone.
You're welcome.
Some point. But I also like that there's a jab at them being overrun.
Yes.
Like, They definitely wanted to make the scenes feel as desperate as possible, because they're also, where we saw the civilians at the start of the attack being just bashed by everything, they're really bringing them into fight for this as like a very, very last stand, which is a nice touch.
Yeah.
Because we know if Minas Tirith is overtaken,
there's nothing stopping this. Yeah.
No, because all you have is really Rohan in the Shire, which Rohan's not really...
The Shire doesn't count. They will walk in there and kick a puppy and call it a day.
Yeah, and conquer the hobbits in
the process.
One move.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, yeah, it's a good start to building, like, the hopelessness that we're about to get into.
Yes.
Because, back to Frodo, he is being stalked.
Do.
Which, yes, this is the great horror moment of this movie.
It's so good. The camera work is amazing.
Very twisty and sneaky and just...
And, like, it also has, like, that reminiscence of, like, the first couple times we saw Gollum.
Yeah.
Where, like, it all feels like it's tying back together.
Yeah, well, because, like, she stalks over him, and we don't see her, but she is so quiet.
Yes.
And Frodo doesn't suspect anything, and then he turns around and stick right in the gut.
Stab.
Well, that's a maggot hole for him, I guess. Yeah. But I also love it, too, because it's the return of the Sam.
Yes.
Which, when Sam appears again, the hand that's in the screen, Peter Jackson's.
Of course it is.
Because they had to do pickup shots and Aston wasn't available.
It's okay, though, because the rest of it, all Sam.
Yes. Yeah, well, except for that one really good CGI transition to IRL. Because they did the same thing with kicking, or not CGI, but when Denethor throws Pippin out the door.
Yes.
The camera's just above, that was his body double being thrown, and then him popping up in front of the camera.
Yes.
There's some very good and little editing techniques, and I think that's where they really defined it, because they were using such a combination instead of doing the cuts between that we saw in the beginning, where like Frodo jumping on the cart, obviously the stunt doubles, and then you cut back to Frodo on the cart with the perspective shot.
Yes.
Where they really refined their techniques by this point in the movie.
Yeah, it feels seamless.
Yeah. And Wood described being wrapped in the webbing as being wrapped in the world's largest condom, which sent me down a rabbit hole.
Oh, okay.
A very quick rabbit hole.
Okay.
The world's largest condom is actually 9.45 inches long, and is made by They Fit.
Good to know.
Yeah. So, Good luck out there, guys. Try convincing your woman of that. But this part also shows that how much of a hero Sam really is.
Yes.
Compared to any of the hobbits, honestly.
He is by far the most, like...
He is Samwise the Brave.
He really is.
Yeah. Because, and that's the thing is, he's such a companion, but he's a hero when he's pushed to it.
Yes. Like, he has the ability to be a fighter. Mm-hmm.
Which I think is great, too, because, I mean, he's a gardener.
Yeah.
We don't really think about that a lot.
And honestly, out of the 4 of the hobbits, he's the least likely to be on this adventure.
Yeah, because every time he keeps bringing up, this is the furthest I've ever been away from the Shire kind of thing.
Like, he's a homebody.
Yeah, and they kept at that, too, of, like, Jackson mentioned there's all these little moments here and there of, like, at the end of the first movie when they step up and it's kind of like that pausing moment to look over where Mordor's at. Mm-hmm. It's both of their moments being the furthest from the Shire kind of thing. And,
yeah, and like Sam's held on to that the longest too. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And, I mean, he's the one who kills Shelob.
He does it. Yeah, this hobbit takes down this giant ass spider.
Which, oh man, her stinger was always terrifying as a kid.
It's still scary.
Yeah, it's got that. That's the thing where they do really well, because normally, like in spider movies, you see they bite real quick or it's a quick stab. This one's like undulating and like
is drippy.
Yeah,
and like they've got all of the details of a like actual spider.
Yeah,
since they worked with having a live one there to model from, so like it's not just like a bee butt on a spider.
Yep,
it's like specifically that spider.
Yep.
And like, I don't know, there's just not another way to describe it. And like her feet are little spider feet. Like she's got the little split.
The little grabby things.
Yeah, as opposed to just having like a nub.
Yeah.
Like it's so detailed and you see her for so little. But we get to see a lot of her, so I'm okay with it.
But that's the thing about all this movie is like we don't see, there's a lot of stuff that we only see very little of. But it's so detailed, and that's why it works, is because it feels like it's a realistic setting.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just a tribute to the perfection of their craft.
Yeah.
But we get Sam thinks Frodo's dead.
A fair judgment call.
Fair judgment.
He look real dead.
He looks very pasty.
He looks real.
He's so pale.
He looks so pasty.
But I also like this because we also get a little reuse of something we really haven't seen since the first movie. When he unsheathes Sting.
And it's blue.
And it's glowing.
I love that. I love that trope because it's one of the few tropes that truly like really pulls all the way from The Hobbit.
Yes.
And like that really like solidifies like the journey from Bilbo to Frodo to Sam.
Yeah.
And then back to Frodo.
Yeah. And just in elvish weapons in general, because a good chunk of them glow, but not all of them do.
Yeah.
And the ones that do glow are the much, much older weapons. Because Sting is a very famous dagger in the series.
Yeah.
I don't remember its full history, but I know it has like a bigger history than, it's just a cool sword Bilbo was gifted.
But now it is Bilbo's sword.
Yeah, well, the knife Bilbo was gifted, because remember, they're hobbits.
Yes.
Yeah, but like Sam's got to get away. He's like, oh shit, there's orcs coming. And they come and they're like, oh, Shelob's left another one. Let's go ahead and pick it up. But and I like this bit because it is exposition-y for the orcs.
Yes.
But it's information that we as an audience and Sam doesn't know, that her toxin doesn't kill, it paralyzes.
Yes.
And so we're given that little bit of, hey, you need to know this, that, hey, this is why he's alive. He's not dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so there's some little hope again.
Yes.
Again, we cut back because
we got to keep flipping.
Flip-flop, which is, I mean, I think that's part of the reason these movies are paced so well, is because of the flipping back and forth of like, this is what's happening here, back to here. Oh, there's a little cliffhanger. There's another little cliffhanger.
Yes.
Yeah. It's so well edited.
Yes, very much so.
Because we go back to Minas Tirith, where Pippin tries to save Faramir. This is the part where he gets thrown in. There's that nice transition.
This is it.
Yeah. Where he says, go ahead and die in the way that's best for you. And it's like, Jesus, like, you don't...
He's out of it.
Yeah.
He's off his rocker.
Yeah, and it just shows that Pippin was a nothing element to him. He was just a tool to use to drive his son.
Yes, like from the beginning.
Yeah. Which we cut down to the orc side, which, God, what's his name?
Which one?
The one that only has a name, Gothmog.
Yes.
Gothmog is
lumpy,
terrifying,
lumpy, mushy.
Yeah, and just cutting back to him for a bit just makes all the people of Minas Tirith feel abandoned.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah, and it feels as if the fall of Minas Tirith
it's happening.
Yeah. And it also just, as a weird way, feels like a little bit of a side quest. Mm-hmm. Of like, the movie's so focused on Faramir and everything that...
Yeah, you kind of forget about all this other stuff.
Yeah, exactly. But now we get the Witch King who appears to spread fear.
Yelling at people like you do.
Yeah, because this is the part where Pippin goes and grabs Gandalf. He's like, hey, Faramir's alive and he's going to be burnt alive. And this is a scene that was actually cut, and they were sad that they had to cut it because it does in the theatrical version break the continuity a little bit.
Yeah. Because
the Witch King appears and tries stopping them from getting up, and he breaks Gandalf's staff.
Which is a detail that theatrically, like, you don't necessarily notice right away, but it is a detail that, like, isn't normally left out from Peter Jackson's films.
No, because at this point now, all the wizard staffs are broken. Like, the source of, not really the source of his power, but the instrument of his power.
Yeah.
They're all broken as far as we know.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know if Radagast has a staff.
He does.
He does?
In The Hobbit, he does.
Okay.
I don't know what happens to it, though.
Who knows? I don't even know what happens to Radagast after this series.
I don't remember.
I haven't looked it up either. I don't know if he just stays in Middle... I would assume he probably stays in Middle-earth.
I'm sure he finds a nice hedgehog family to live with.
Yeah, I can see it. But the Witch King is pulled away because we hear some horns on the horizon.
Oh my god!
Rohan has arrived.
The horses!
Yeah. And so on the Witch King, because we do get to see him for a couple bits.
Yes.
You did mention that he was designed to have a similar aesthetic.
The spikiness.
And he had to be redesigned multiple times because the first design was too close to Sauron, and they didn't want people to... And also they had to upgrade him from being just a wraith on a horse.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't want people to think he was the character from the prologue in the first movie.
Exactly.
But in his design, his crown was supposed to feel like it was, or his helmet was supposed to feel like it was a crown of thorns, like he was kind of an Antichrist-like character, without being a crown of thorns.
Yeah, I would say it's a success.
Yeah. As well, his mace that we'll see in a little bit was redesigned multiple times, and each time Jackson wanted it to be larger and larger until it was ridiculous, but it still works because of how strong the Witch King is supposed to be. If it had been just like normal size, it wouldn't have fit.
Yes. And like there's a level of like surrealist power to the Witch King.
Yeah.
That especially because all of his other like abilities don't really translate well to screen, like that fear. Mm-hmm. That like mind-numbing terror that he's supposed to have around him.
Yeah, it's like
he's supposed to cripple people in fear.
Yeah, it's like in anime when there's like that murderous intent, that spiritual pressure kind of shit, where it's like you get that like blur, those up and down lines around the character. Yeah,
it's supposed to be like that, but like this is that's so hard to portray well.
Yeah,
and like they did a good job with the covering of the ears with the screaming.
Yeah,
but like that doesn't really like necessarily push that idea too hard.
It just sounds like it's a loud screech,
which is fair. Like that's also bad.
Yeah,
but like there's like another worldly power that's like there has to be a way to express that visually, and like giant weapon and giant dude with spiky hat, good way to do that.
Yeah, it works quite well.
It does.
But yeah, and I'm just thinking of like the other ways it's portrayed in like manga, like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure with the menace.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to do something like that, especially on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I mean, they did a good job with it.
Definitely.
And now we cut to the Rohan Riders again, where the king's helm is very horseshoe-like his hall is.
Of course it is.
Just horse shit all over the place.
The ultimate horse girl.
And it's really the age of the kings riding into battle. Like, it's kind of the end, which I love his, like, rallying cry. It feels very Braveheart-like.
Yes.
Which, that was the actor's contribution of, he's like, how do I put myself in front of these people? And, like, how would I rally them? And, like, this is our battle tradition of, I clank my sword along your spears as we get ready for battle.
Yeah, and, like, there's even, like, a few moments where it feels like the characters from Brave, where, like, there's all these clans coming together, but he's the head.
Yeah.
And so, like, yeah, how do you get, like, all these groups to, like, not just ride with you, but to, like, be ready to die.
Yeah.
Like, we are going to die.
Yeah, it's the last ditch effort of humanity at this point.
Yeah.
Which also, I love the hodgepodge of orc spears.
I do too.
Because none of them are consistent.
They're just all over the place.
Oh yeah. But I also really like the line he says, "Ride for ruin and the world's ending."
Yes.
Which still reiterates his pessimism of, like,
he doesn't think this is going to work.
No.
But at least we can go out with a bang.
Exactly. And also, it's weird because the orcs are so orderly compared to the ragtag battle methods of the men for this.
Like they don't feel like they've had as much time to prep for this as the orcs did.
Yep.
Which is crazy. But yeah, they marched here and were like, all right, let's go.
Yep, exactly. And it's an impressive moment because even with Rohan arriving, it still feels hopeless.
Yeah, like to see the horses immediately start falling, you're like, oh yeah, they are just horses.
Yeah, this is the last little struggle, the last march of the men.
Yeah.
But from here we cut back to and the pacing of this is nice too because it's still actiony, but it's having a little bit of breather in between, but not really like a full breather. It's like doing sprints and then doing like a little jog afterwards.
Yeah.
Because we cut back to Denethor looking like a shitty cult leader.
Which he is.
And he did a great job of looking like a crazed man.
Oh yeah, no, his whole performance for this movie, like, stellar.
Yeah.
Like, you are fully convinced that this guy is absolutely out of his mind. Yeah.
And it's also a good moment, too, because we've seen it more so, and I don't think we've really discussed it, that Hobbit's strength is in their compassion and call to action. The Hobbits really much so are... all their arcs are the anime believe in your heart and friendship kind of thing.
Friendship will get us through.
Which it does for all of them.
Yeah, I know. That's the joy of it.
But it goes a little bit more than that, I feel, because the Hobbits are such a peaceful, don't give a shit kind of people that it takes these four to really change the tides of everything in Middle-earth.
Yeah.
Because if Frodo hadn't taken the ring, then none of this would have happened.
Yeah.
Merry and Pippin didn't try being a distraction. Frodo probably wouldn't have gone away. And Frodo sure as hell wouldn't have made it this far without Sam.
Fact.
Yeah. Also, side note about the burning room. The dome ceiling really reminds me of the Pantheon.
Yeah.
To really tie in the old, archaic feeling.
This very cathedral-esque.
Yeah, very square dome shaping.
Yeah.
Which... I love Gandalf just coming in and smacking shit around.
Oh, I do too.
Knocks Denethor off the burning
Get down,
pile.
you dumbass.
Dipshit. Frodo, or, not Frodo, Pippin jumps on the burning pyre to get...
I like how it's Pippin who, like, this halfling is trying to, like, roll this big man off the burning pyre.
Well, and it's also a learning moment for, like, Denethor of... It's kind of a poetic end for him because...
It's the end he wanted.
Well, it's what he was starting, but in his like last little moment of clarity, before all goes to hell, and he sees that Faramir is opening his eyes and still alive, he's like, "Oh shit, what have I done?" And then proceeds to be lit on fire and runs off the
end of the mountain.
Yeah,
which is the most poetic way to die.
It's a good...
It is Edgar Allan Poe to a T.
Yeah, and honestly, it's a good death for Denethor.
Yes.
Yeah,
it's very Shakespearean.
He burned his own house to the ground, basically.
He tried to burn his own son, and in the process burned himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is wonderfully Shakespearean. I love it.
And so now we cut back to the battle again.
Yes.
Where the tides feel as if they are turning.
I mean, we're starting to make some progress.
A little bit. Well, I mean, the Rohan have actually, or the Rohirrim have actually done a decent job.
And, like, this isn't just the little kids and old men anymore. Like, We've gotten our actual fighters back. We've rounded everybody up. We're making some dents.
We look to the dawn on the 5th day.
And we finally see...
Mumakil.
Elephants.
Yeah.
They're so cool!
So, speaking of these people, they're tribal and primitive feeling in comparison to the other men.
Yes.
And not
they feel like desert folk in a way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And we're not talking in regards to like the craft, but more so the materiality of their equipment. It lacks the metals that we really think of for advanced societies.
There's a lot more cloth and like wooden spikes in their designs.
Yeah, and I'm going to get into that a little bit because there was a lot of thought put into that because this is the one part of Lord of Tolkien's work that can be read one way or the other.
Yeah.
But the way Tolkien was and how he treated other people, I don't think it was intended by today's standards the way he wrote it.
Yeah, I can see what you mean.
Yeah. But goddamn the crazy horse bastards of Lord of the Rings.
I love the horse people.
Cuz what do they decide to do?
They're going to take on the elephants with their horses.
Yeah.
And you know what? They kind of do a good job.
Yeah. But even then, we still can't escape another goddamn Wilhelm scream. There's like 3 in this battle.
There really is.
There's one that's a very clear one, and then the other couple are kind of the tail end where it's not as like the ha bit.
Yeah, it's the more scream part.
Yeah, it's such a stupid part for such an epic battle, and I will harp on the fact that I hate I like the part in Sukiyaki Western Django where there's the really short Wilhelm scream of the guy falling over the banister.
That one almost feels comedic.
But that's the point, is Sukiyaki Western Django is a comedic movie.
Yeah.
Like, even in the battles are comedic.
Yeah, they're over the top.
Yeah. This isn't that.
That's true. Yeah.
But also, the Mumakil are all so scarred and gashed.
Yeah.
And they kind of stem from, and there were war elephants, but there's an old bestiary out there, medieval one, they described elephants as being so large you could fit a city on their back.
I like the idea, but I don't know what elephants they're looking at.
Again, remember, it's interpretation of someone
True.
And
I was gonna say, I've been to Rome. I've seen the fountains of people trying to figure out what an armadillo looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah, people weren't good at describing things.
No. What was it? The jaguars fight the pygmies or something? Shit? Yeah. Yeah. And so, since we're on the topic of these men, we're going to finally talk about the Horadrim. We've seen them twice in the series so far. Yeah. Entering the Black Gate, and then also when they were ambushed by Faramir's rangers.
Our first scene of the elephants.
Yeah. But this is the first time we see everything in its full splendor. Mm-hmm. For me, it kind of feels like a little bit of a Mad Max moment-esque of like the parade of tanks and shit.
They feel like the most disorganized of the group of men.
Yeah.
Like, they definitely feel like each elephant rider decorated their own elephant to what they thought was best.
Yeah.
Like, there's some similarities as far as like, oh, well, there's always a rider on front, and we direct them with the ears, and we put spikes on their tusks.
And their legs.
And their legs.
They get little bracelets.
They do get little bracelets. But other than that, it's very, like, it's very independent on, like, how that looks.
Yeah.
And it's not strategic as in, like, oh, well, we put these ones on the edge. No, it just feels like I want mine to have a lawnmower blade.
They're like the southern Rohirrim.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a bit. But the Horadrim in Lord of the Rings are from a region south of Gondor, and they're led by the Black Númenóreans, who we mentioned, I think it was last episode, actually. No, earlier this episode. Oppose the faithful Númenóreans and the Valar and the elves.
Yeah.
But now we also have a deviation from the books that was taken into consideration for our modern audiences as to avoid racial stereotypes. Because in the books, they're described as swartings or swarthy men, and have described as having brownish skin and black hair and dark eyes.
Not the most eloquent description.
No, and it fits kind of what the depiction of like Spanish and Greeks kind of ideas, which if we're talking, and probably Roman at the time too, but if we're talking about like where Lord of the Rings is supposed to be, like Middle Earth is like England.
Yeah.
Geographically, it makes sense. And then there's also, they completely removed these from the part, but they're only mentioned briefly. There's a group of half men. They're called half orcs.
Okay.
And they're described as having black skin.
Oh, great.
But it's never really said if they're men, if they're orcs, if they're troll, or no, they're called half trolls.
Goopy people, not really said, huh?
Yeah, it's not really described. It's a quick mention, and this is the part where a lot of people put in that Tolkien was a racist.
Yeah, it's hard to know.
Yeah, well, the way Tolkien's outside of his life was, Lord of the Rings is written in a mythological sense, so it's taken its worldview into a very Victorian-esque interpretation. Because I mean, that's what Tolkien is.
Yeah, that was who he was.
Yeah. I mean, his writing might not have reflected his beliefs, but that's for another type of podcast.
We're not going down that far.
Yeah. But that being stated, the designs of the Horadrim. The team took inspiration from the weaving in armor, or the weaving of their armor and clothing from a small oceanic nation called Kiribati, and combined it with the Aztecs' metals and ivories of like the little bits of metal we do see. Yeah. But it's never like full plate metal. And also they tried to make it feel like they used the Mumakil in the armor and on their fortresses, their back fortresses and stuff. So basically they're using the dead Mumakil to ride the Mumakil. Yeah. And they base their entire fighting style as riding from the Mumakil.
Yeah, they are the answer to the Rohan.
Yeah.
Like,
it's their cavalry.
Yeah. Like, if the Rohan are crazy horse girls, these guys are crazy elephant girls.
Yeah, because honestly, the wargs don't really feel like a cavalry unit. They're more of like an ambush scout unit than anything. Yeah. They're not really meant for that kind of battle.
Especially not in these three movies.
Yeah, and wargs don't really put you up at the same height as men.
No, they're still lower.
Yeah.
They're squatty.
Yeah, they're weird. But yeah, it's interesting to see where they pulled the inspiration from, trying to circumnavigate a bunch of political issues.
Because you do want to have like some differentiation between all these people, because it's supposed to be really like big jumps between the types of men, but you don't want it to be too reflective of real people.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, these are supposed to be fantasy people.
Well, and we've talked about how they've really pulled off, and they really tried making every single race of people and culture feel like they had their own design philosophies and pulled from that nature, rather than or tried to interpret how that would correlate or that idea would translate to someone who grew up in Middle Earth, and not someone taking our ideas and painting over Middle Earth with them.
Exactly.
Yeah. But in this battle, we cut back to the rest of the battle. Merry is a badass.
Yes, he is. Good job, Merry.
So is Éowyn.
They're just slicing through people.
Because they're all getting ready for they're all fighting, and then we cut back to like Gandalf and Pippin just waiting for the gates to open to spring their attack, which Gandalf says a very nice line.
Yes.
Death is just another path, one that we all must take.
Which is cute, except for he died and came back.
Yeah, and also technically you're immortal, you asshat.
Yeah, way to throw people into the death there, sir, when you can't die.
Technically.
He came back from fighting a giant fire demon.
Yeah, but he can still...
He came back stronger because of it. He fell to the middle of the earth.
He got resurrected by his master. Technically, they could have sent him to the nothingness.
Well, you know what? Still feels like some bullshit to me.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's a good line, but the more you think about it, it's like...
God damn it, Gandalf, you're a dick.
This is why I don't like Gandalf the White.
Yeah.
Gandalf the Grey at least was a little bit more of a dipshit.
Gandalf the Grey at least knew that he was also an ass.
Yeah. And now we have the fall of Theoden to the Witch King.
Yeah. Which, I mean, moving, but we all saw it coming.
Yeah. Well, and again, like I said, this is the end of the old kings.
Yeah, and like...
This is the last old king.
Yeah, he was truly the last one to be holding on to power.
Mm-hmm. We
gotta make room for Aragorn.
Yeah, actually, technically, it's kind of like Highlander. There can only be one.
There can only be one.
But also there's some bits in there where because Eowyn steps in the way and he brings up the Witch King says nothing steps between a Nazgul and his prey. And as a kid, I always thought the Nazgul specifically meant the mounts. Not himself. Because it's the way he says it. If you don't know what the Nazgul is...
Yeah, the way he says it does. I can see where you would confuse that.
Yeah, because every other time they're referred to as the Wraiths.
Yes.
Or the Nazgul. Or the Nine.
Yeah.
But the Nazgul, the first time I remember hearing it was specifically when the worm things were introduced.
That's true. Yeah, that's kind of when they stopped calling them the Riders.
Yeah, it's a little misleading.
A little bit.
Yeah, but we do get a dope mace. This is where we see his mace that matches his hat.
It's pretty cool. It is the size of a hobbit.
Yeah,
and I like the weight of it too. Like it doesn't swing like a fast weapon.
Yeah.
It feels like a slow, heavy weapon that, like, one hit KO.
Mm-hmm. It feels very much like a Dark Souls boss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Without the speed.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's a great moment, too, because Pippin tries helping to, stabs him in the back, but arm gets crippled or something.
Yeah, he gets the, you're a dude, you can't stab.
Yeah, which I forgot... Well, and that's the thing. I think when he says no man can kill me, I am no man.
Yeah.
Because Éomer does get her shield broken. Like,
yeah.
The power, it feels very raw. Like, it feels hopeless for her.
Yes.
But even when she stabs him...
It still hurts.
Yeah.
It still hurts like a bitch.
Yeah, so... yes, strong female moment. But it also just kind of feels pointless. Of, like...
Yeah, I feel like the movie focuses a little bit heavily handed on the whole no man can kill me line.
Yeah.
And less on the, like, she took on the Witch King single-handedly and beat him.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
and
it doesn't feel like a warrior's win.
Yeah, no, it's a weird... It is, don't get me wrong, they're good lines.
Yeah, oh no,
it's just when
it's memorable.
Yeah, it's just when you start breaking it down and it's like, yes, I understand you probably meant metaphorically, men.
But, like, doesn't, like, you still died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am no man.
Yeah, and it works in two different ways, just not simultaneously.
Yeah, exactly. It just depends on how you want to try and frame it.
Yeah.
And so, stuff is still looking rough.
Mm-hmm.
But a group of Courser ships show up.
I wonder who could that be?
It is a trap again.
Ah, surprise! It's ghosts!
Yeah, and as I mentioned, this is that part where I agree with Sugi that the theatrical version did it better.
For the first time watching it, I would agree with you.
Yeah.
The first time you see it, the theatrical version has that surprise factor.
Yeah.
And then the second or third time you watch it, having that pre-anticipation is nice.
Because we didn't know about this... accepting of the order until this moment that they decided, oh yeah, we will fight with you kind of thing. But from here, we also cut to Legolas joining the fray. He gets the dope mama kill, which...
looks badass.
It is a cool fight scene. Legolas does some dope shit, which I don't know why all the elves don't do this shit. If the elves could parkour around like everything like Legolas does.
Again, I feel like Legolas is the weird child. And that's why he's been sent to go live with rangers.
Yeah, I can see it. He just moves so differently than any of the other elves.
He really does, and like, if you wanted to break it down, I could see the argument for how like Legolas in this movie breaks elves. Yep. But because the rest of the elves don't work like Legolas, and we've decided to like give Legolas and Gimli these special little totems to stand on, you don't care.
Yeah. Well,
they're just like a little bit of extra fun in the battle.
Yeah.
And like they don't really ever turn the tide of battle.
No.
Like he takes down a whole elephant by himself, but it doesn't really seem to like help.
No,
because
and I think it's also just a cool bit to add all the special effects because he does get all the cool flashy kills.
Yes.
Minus Aragorn throwing his sword and be like, holy shit, that worked.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just really sets him apart. And I also love how like Gimli's like, that's still one.
Yeah. It's big, but it's one.
Yeah. And also, there's another Wilhelm scream.
Of course there is.
I'm done. I'm not gonna. I'll just point out where I hate them.
Okay.
But Eowyn is comforting King Theoden, who dies. But it feels okay.
Yeah, like this feels like he's passing on the torch, and he got to see her take out the Witch King. Like she's finally proven to him that she's what she said she was.
Yeah. Like
she could be that leader.
Yeah, and I mean it just well, that's the thing I forgot to talk about is when they're getting ready to leave for battle and he's like, I want you to stay behind, and she's like, why can't I ride with you? And she's like, what other order would you give me, my lord? And he's like, order? I would order you to smile again if I could. Yeah. And it's like, people, you can lead in other ways where, yeah, she's a warrior, but she also serves another purpose where I feel like, because she mentions that all the women grow up knowing how to wield a sword. Yeah. But it feels like she's caught up in like what the boys are doing instead of realizing that, hey, yeah, you can hold we recognize you can hold your own, but you're a different type of leader and a center for people to rally around that I can't be, kind of thing. I think that's what Theoden was hoping she would be. And like, or hoping she would realize. Yeah. And in reality, she wasn't that. Her brother cousin person is more of that. Like, he has a better connection to the troops and to the men than she does. She spends hardly any time with the people. She's more like Theoden than Theoden wanted. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I don't know. That's the thing I like about all these characters is that you can watch them and they are this screen. They're a surface level. Yeah. But the more you dig into them, the more compelling and the more interesting they are, because at the same time, they're well thought through. Yeah, and in a short time, in a single battle, we have seen the passing of all the old kings. Yes. Like, all the gears of power are falling apart. Yeah. The only two that we have after this battle is really Aragorn, who isn't really even fully dived into his leadership position yet. Yeah. And Sauron. Yeah. And those are really the two major forces, and even then, Aragorn's side is relatively small. Yeah. Compared to what else is coming. Yeah, and I mean, at this point now, the battle's ended, and the weight of the world rides on some hobbits in Mordor and an 87-year-old. Yeah, it really does. It's a weird lineup. It is. Yeah. And so we get to post-battle, where Aragorn is showing his honor to the dead, where he's letting them go, where I like that there's that little test and trial of Gimli saying, they're good in a fight, we could use them again. Yeah, but at the same time, I do like Jackson's thought process behind them of like, they're not worth trying to convince to keep fighting. They don't have the same commitment that those that are alive do. No, they were here to fill their contract. Yeah, because really, if they wanted to, they probably could have, if their contract wasn't released, just overtaken Minas Tirith and killed everyone. Exactly. Like it's pleasant to think of them as men, but they're not. They're ghosts. Yeah. They don't have the same ties that everyone else here does. This isn't their world. Minas Morgul 2.0. Yeah, seriously. Like, yeah, they don't have any real connection other than the contract. Yeah. And, I mean, after all, because that's a long action scene.
It is.
We finally get that little bit of grief and healing.
Yeah. It's time to breathe.
Yeah, where Aragorn is not only a warrior, but he's also a healer. Oh shit, what's his name? Éomer?
Yeah, him.
He finds Éowyn.
They can hang out together with their weird names.
Well, he thinks she's dead.
Yeah.
And he's not even really grieving King Theoden either.
Yeah.
Because he finds her on the battlefield and he's like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Like, okay, maybe this is ended. And the weird thing is, because how it ends up playing out, it doesn't feel like he's even, like, I know technically he's going to be the next king of Rohan.
Yeah.
But he doesn't feel like he's going to be, like, the leader that Éowyn is.
No, it doesn't feel like he was ready for it where she was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just the different ways of leading. He's definitely the warrior. But we also get this little bit of Pippin going out to find Merry in the reversal of roles. Mm-hmm. And after rewatching this so many times, I absolutely love this bit because it's the end of the fight. Everyone else has gone.
Yeah. But
Pippin is out there searching for his companion.
Yeah, he knows he's out there somewhere.
Yeah. And he's going to be the one who finds him and takes care of him. And so this is the part where Pippin matures.
Yeah, so this is Pippin's, like, grand, like, coming of age, I guess, if you will.
Well, I'd say his maturing is very much saving Faramir and then going out to try and find Merry.
Yeah. Hi, Charlie.
I just saw him crawl out from under the bed. But from here, we cut to the Tower of Kirith Ungul.
Yes.
Where the orcs are fighting over the Frodo loot.
I like how they've stripped him down to his undies.
The nice skivvies. Which, I mean, is the closest we get to the white barrels.
That's true.
We don't want to see a scene for scene.
No, we
adaptation.
really don't.
So, of which, Kirith Ungul is interesting because it was a Númenorian outpost to watch over Mordor, but it has that grand feeling that Isengard had, but it feels like it's just been before the orc modifications, and that's how almost all of Mordor feels like.
Yeah, definitely.
And I'll get into a little bit here in a minute about Barad-dûr, but we get the Orc Brawl, which just feels like orcs doing their thing.
Yes, but I also Peter Jackson comments that it's almost humorous that they take themselves out. But it also feels so right for, like, this group of crazy violent group. For, like, this is probably fairly regular.
Well, and that lies a little bit in more of the lore. Because at the beginning, elves were some elves were captured by, I'm pretty sure it was Melkor. I don't think Sauron was as big as he is now. It was Melkor who got them and corrupted them into the orcs. And for a long time, the orcs thought Melkor was their creator. They thought he was Ilúvatar.
What a lie.
Ilúvatar, or whatever Ilúvatar, or whatever his name is. And at this point, they're aware that they're corrupted elves. And in a way, they hate the fact that they were once these great beings. And so that's why they hate the elves, because the elves are what they were supposed to be, but they've been completely turned into something unnatural. And so in a way, they also hate themselves.
Yes.
So taking each other out is just basically them taking out their anger on everything around them. So it makes a little bit more sense in the greater context of their lore.
Yes.
But I also just love how, like, everything in this tower just feels corrupted and gross. Like it feels like there's a layer of slime over everything.
Yes, very much so. Like, everything feels caked in mud.
Yeah. Or orc blood, probably.
Yeah, probably that one.
Yeah. I mean, it is painted black.
He's crusty.
Yeah. But surprise to all of them, after they've taken most of them out, Sam is to the rescue.
Go Sam!
Which, again, the tower, just going back to the tower, it feels like a chunkier Isengard.
It does.
Yeah. Also, the lamp is a reworking of helmets, specifically Rohir or Gondorian helmets, and orc DIY repurposing.
I love it. It looks great.
What's the term? upcycling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Orcish upcycling.
Orcish upcycle. I love it.
Yeah. Which, since we're on the subject, let's just talk about Barad-dûr. Because I don't want to... The only time we really see it in full is at the climax.
Yes.
And I think that's a little bit too late to talk about it. But they didn't want it to look like a twin tower to Isengard.
Fair.
As well, the eye is so, for a little bit of lore, the eye is the last physical manifestation of Sauron himself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It is also, for how the design team described it, it was a symbol for wanting to be God, as well as a perversion of his power, and the Númenórean architecture, without being exactly a Númenórean copy.
Sure. Okay.
They wanted it to be gothic and organic feeling, kind of like Gaudi a bit.
Okay. Yeah.
So we can see it's like a spikier Gaudi. And there's so much detail into it. It's 27 feet tall, just an FYI.
He's a big model.
But it was also so that way they could use a lipstick camera to get in there and get the nice detailing. Mm-hmm. But Barad-dûr, and we don't see a lot of detailing. We've seen a lot of the look similar to Isengard.
Yeah.
Because it comes from that Númenórean start into like the Celtic look too. But in the history, the reason Barad-dûr still even exists, even after the crushing of Sauron way before, what happened is the foundation of Barad-dûr is tied to the ring.
Ah.
And so when Isildur didn't throw it into the fire...
Can't break it down.
They couldn't destroy the foundations of Barad-dûr, and so it gave them a place to start again.
Yeah.
Because Barad-dûr is the largest built structure in Middle-earth.
Fancy.
And if I remember right, it actually does sit higher than Mount Doom itself. By like 100 feet or so. And that's the way that I can see all of Middle-earth.
Fancy.
Yeah, if you wanted to.
The Dubai Tower of Middle-earth.
Yeah, probably really pricey.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. But back to the plot. Sam is just so loyal.
Ah, bless Sam.
Yeah, and I love... I've said that a lot too. There's that nice touch of tension between Sam and Frodo when Sam has the ring of like, Frodo's like, they've taken it all of it.
Yep.
And Sam's like,
nope.
Bamboozled.
Gotcha. Thought you were dead.
But there's that little bit, because for those who haven't read the book, Sam does actually put on the ring at one point for a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's not very long. And even then, when he wants to hand over the ring to Frodo, there is that little hesitation. But it's because Sam is one of those so pure hobbits that the visions that the ring tells him that he could have is like being the best gardener.
Yeah, like prize tomatoes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nothing great or anything.
There's no world domination in Sam.
Yeah, at all. And I think that's like when the ring tries probing Sam of like, hey, keep me. Mm-hmm. Frodo's spent, keep me. But when Sam does give Frodo the ring back, there's this little eye roll of like a junkie getting his fix.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, and pretty much like the whole story of Frodo and Sam is Sam taking care of his junkie friend.
Yeah, yeah.
But his junkie friend just happens to be carrying the thing that will save the world.
A dilemma.
A dilemma indeed. Into Mordor they go as poorly disguised hobbits.
I like their disguises though.
I do too, because
they feel chunky enough that like believable.
Yeah, they feel like they were reject orcs.
Yeah, they feel like passable.
But at the same time, like their armor looks so different than everyone else around them. It feels like they just grabbed some old armor that they could fit into, because it's all their stuff is like very bird witch nose looking esque. Yeah,
it feels like they found what they could and like we're like, well, I hope this blends in enough.
Yeah, I mean they won't question us. They will question us if we look like hobbits, but
yeah, we can at least kind of get by.
Yeah, and from here we cut back to Minas Tirith, and beyond, Gandalf says what will come next, or actually no, he says he doesn't know what will come next.
Yes,
he's figured out what we can do up to Minas Tirith. But the next relies on two hobbits
Yep.
In the wilderness.
Outside of his elk.
That we have a vague idea of where they're at. But I also like that even with trying to figure out what to do, they still decide on the last-ditch effort to make a diversion.
Yeah.
Like, they know that they probably won't come out of this alive, but it'll give the other two time.
Yeah, and that's all that they can want is, like, to empty out the fields.
And it's really showing their leadership of just Aragorn putting everyone else in front of himself. And
also the, like, trust in each other that, like, both groups have been going this whole time.
Yeah.
Because they really haven't gotten any promise that Frodo and Sam are in Mordor right now. They can just hope. And that trust that, like, well, you know, the worst that can happen is that we all die faster. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's good tension building because as a first-time viewer, you know that Frodo and Sam are there. Yeah. But you don't know where you don't everything's going to end up. And I love the panning shots of Mordor to kind of, like, establish that, like, yeah, we are now inside the ring, but it's still a really long walk. And it's the most inhospitable climate we've come across. It is rocks and heat. Yeah, there's nothing here. Yeah. And also at this point, we get our last testing of Aragorn with the Palantiri. Yes. Where he looks in it, and although they brought up the ring with Sauron, that it's the proof of his lineage, but it's really his ability to control the Palantiri that really solidifies it, because you need powerful blood or powerful lineage to act, or be basically godly to control the Palantiri. Yes. And it's also really to show that, like, hey, he's taking on the full force of it. Like, he's like, hey, Sauron, the sword's been reforged. You remember this one. Stung the last time you got your fingers cut off, didn't it? It very much feels like a more polite middle finger. Yeah, yeah. Which, I don't know, it's this odd, unhinged look that he has that makes this scene feel a little weird. It is a little weird, but also it feels like the final, like, he's working himself up to be like, all right, we're going to have to march. Yep. We're gonna do this, and I'm gonna, like, try my best to taunt this guy as much as I can. Yeah, and he does a good job because the eye's definitely coming to him. And that's the other thing too, is they don't really talk about it, but the Palantiri isn't necessarily like a conversation so much. Yeah. A lot of times it's the stronger power controlling the other one. And in this part, Aragorn somewhat starts to overpower Sauron. Yeah. Of like, hey, you can't probe my mind with this. Yeah. Yeah. Like, finally showing that, like, hey, I'm here to be serious. Yeah, it's kind of like scanners. Yeah. Yeah. And so off to where they go, as Eowyn stays back with Faramir, who is now the replacement Aragorn. Yeah, why not? Whatever, I don't care. They're cute together, I don't care. I don't care. It's just like this weird little moment of like, well, Aragorn is gone. Well, you're close enough. New boyfriend. You're kind of Númenorian. You're not 87, but I'll take 40-something. Yeah. I do like that the writers felt like these two characters came together because of their hard, like, lineage and trying to live up to their family's expectations. That's all really cute, and I love that they thought that through. But from a viewer standpoint, no one gives a shit. No one gives a shit. Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know, they do a lot of, like, little poetic things that, again, I think they do add depth, and I'm sure there's someone out there who loves their little side story. Oh, I know there is. I have seen the number of fan fictions. I'm sure they're out there. They are out there. Those people exist. I mean, I'm not going to make the same mistake as our Superman judgment. There you go. See? I still don't believe you guys. You guys are all liars that Superman's your favorite. But, anywho. Exactly. Back to Aragorn in his upcoming scenes. He has another costume change where he's not fully in, like, his kingly regalia, but instead is in light gauge armor that's still very ranger-like. Yeah. But it's not Gondorian fully. He's embracing the change. Yeah. It's his last, like,
it's almost as if he doesn't feel that he's ready to be the leader.
No.
Without this last trial.
He wants to prove to everyone that he is truly ready.
Exactly. And so, back into Mordor, the orcs are on the move. Frodo and Sam try and hide.
They hide the worst possible spot. Literally just, they said, like, your cat, Hobbs, hides better than these two. And she's a fat orange cat in a room full of beige carpet.
Hobbs doesn't have a understanding of color theory.
Apparently, neither do hobbits.
No, not at all. Actually, speaking of color, the reason, like, tigers are orange is because how deer's eyes work. They appear green.
Ooh.
So they don't actually show up as, like, bright and colorful as we see them.
We are fancy predators with color.
Yeah.
Except for you. You would die.
I can at least see orange. I can see orange. But yeah, it is a very shitty hiding spot as they're...
They just sit down. They're like, don't look at me.
I'm hidden. And actually, they were hiding pretty well until the one leader kind of found them.
I was going to say, the orcs very much feel like a not my monkey, not my circus sort of, like, troop.
Yeah, because the only one who's concerned is that one who has to do, like, a double take of, like, oh shit, there are people here. It's not just a pile of armor that was left behind.
Yes.
Throw them in.
Get marching, you two.
But I also, in design-wise, the orc encampment is very minimal, and it's very dank and just feels...
It feels temporary, doesn't it?
Feels temporary, but also rotting at the same time.
Yeah, like it's been here too long.
But
it wasn't meant to be.
Yeah, and at the same time, like, maybe it wasn't there that long to begin with. It just feels...
Like, yeah, like they don't feel settled.
Yeah, it feels like the rot of Mordor is everywhere in this place. But this is actually the first time we see the physical signs of the ring's impact on Frodo's neck.
Which I like a lot. This really helps solidify that, like, it's more than him just being a little bitch.
Yeah, it's not a mental weight. It's a physical weight of this thing tugging on his neck somehow.
Yeah, it's like trying to remove it from him.
It is almost like an unbearable weight of potential massive talent.
Haha.
Haha, not the upcoming Nick Cage movie.
Yes.
Yeah. But I do like that once the ring's in there, Frodo is having the hardest time keeping it together.
Yeah.
Because the ring's like, oh shit, I could go to any of these guys really if I wanted to.
Yeah, this is a very good prospect.
Yeah. But I like the diversion that they create where it's like kind of last minute of like, Frodo's like, push me, shove me.
Yeah.
Start a fight. We know how these dudes get riled up real quick.
Yeah, like we know that this will like turn into a brawl immediately.
Yeah. Because I do like the Inspector Orc.
I do too.
So disgusting looking.
He is really creepy.
But his scream.
It's so good.
The scream reminds me, there's a movie, what was it called? I think it's called He Never Died.
I don't know if I've seen that one.
So it's about a demon that, I'm going to spoil it. Sorry if anyone was looking forward to watching it. It's a demon who passes from body to body of the person who kills it.
Ooh.
And every time it passes to the body, it opens its mouth and screams like that orc. And that's like how you know it is it. It just screams the whole way.
Nice.
But yeah, Frodo and Sam get away.
Good diversion. Good job, guys.
Yeah. And it's towards Mount Doom, the pair trek.
Gotta start up that nice hike.
Yep. And they're realizing that they're not going to make it at this pace. They're going to be caught.
They're going too slow. Specifically, Frodo is going too slow.
Yep, because on their way, they pause for a second, and Frodo gets caught in the gaze.
Whoops.
Which, I do like this bit because it doesn't really explain much. One, they threw away all their gear.
Yeah.
But it also... Because it feels like the Eye of Sauron is on everything. Mm-hmm. But I feel it's not a very focused viewpoint.
No.
Because he pauses on the general area, but then when Frodo collapses, it feels like he couldn't find him.
Yeah.
Like he's only getting like, it's like blips on a radar of blip, blip. Oh, it disappeared.
It very much feels like trying to find a TV station via bunny antennas. Like,
Yeah.
Just kind of like waving it around, hoping to get a signal.
Exactly.
Like, you know it's on channel 3 somewhere.
Yeah, but if the ring's in use, pinpoint accuracy.
Exactly.
Oh, even then, not really.
Better accuracy.
Yeah, it's like finding that little bit of a wave.
Yes.
Yeah. And so now we get to the Black Gate, and it's in much more detail.
It is so cool looking.
It is, and looking back on it, I have like I said previously, I think because it was originally created to keep an eye on Mordor, I have a feeling that the orcs modified it to swing out rather than in.
That does make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see what you mean.
But just from an initial look, it didn't look that way.
Yeah.
But then we cut back to, and the Black Gate showing up is just to show that, hey, the forces are getting there.
Yep.
And Frodo and Sam are seeing it to the end, and they're both mentioning that it's the journey of no return.
Yeah, like they both have accepted it at this point.
Yeah, and Frodo is losing it a bit.
Definitely losing it.
And then we cut back to the Black Gate again.
Back and forth.
And rewatching it, there's very Numenorian features like on Isengard. The spiky, kind of buttress-looking edge blades and stuff.
Everything feels a little too tall.
Yeah, just a bit.
Yeah.
And of note, this was filmed at an Army Live testing range that when they showed up, they could see fins of bombs sticking out of the ground.
And the army kept being like, be very careful where you step.
Yeah, we're gonna
stay in this area.
Yeah, it's like, we're gonna clear this 30-foot by 30-foot area.
And the horses kept, like, the people on horseback kept going a little bit farther than they thought they should be. And they're like, hey,
yeah,
there's like 30 years worth of explosives on the ground.
We tried as best we can. And, I mean, I get it. You can't really do too much, especially if you're not a super experienced horse rider.
Yeah.
That, like, you can misjudge.
It's easy to... And, distance is so hard to, like, without putting a marker on the ground, which then they'd have to erase later.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's so hard to be like, all right, I think this is far enough.
Yeah, well, and also in this part, Jackson said it was probably the best bit of being a director because they got the New Zealand Army to be a lot of the extras. They're like, hey, if we can use this bomb field, we'll let you guys be extras. And
boy, it sure helps to have the army play the army.
Yeah, well, he loved it because like he could tell them exact directions and they would follow it to the T. And on top of that, they all knew how to use weapons. It wasn't like they had to train them. It was like, you guys know what you're doing.
Yeah, and it works. Like, the marching feels the most cohesive yet.
Yeah.
Like, they don't feel like a bunch of different forces all coming together. They feel like one unit finally marching as one. Okay.
Yeah. No, it's amazing how, like, that little bit of help drove it.
Yeah.
But now we get the Mouth of Sauron, who is portrayed by Bruce Spence and is creepy and cheesy in a great way.
It reminds me very strongly of Pan's Labyrinth styling.
Yes.
And I think it's because the mouth has been digitally enlarged, so it's too big on his face, and his teeth are too long.
Yeah. Well, and on top of that, like, I'm glad they settled on that because they tried multiple ways of making him creepy, like turning the mouth sideways, but they just ended up, like, scaling it up that little bit to make it...
And, like, that's what does it. Is, like, it's that, like, valley of uncanniness where it's, like, it's wrong, but you're never... It's hard to pinpoint exactly what's wrong.
Yeah. Because we don't see his full face, and we don't really... And that's the thing. In the books, it's described as a man, but...
Yeah.
We don't really know that from the movie. It could be just another kind of orc that we haven't seen.
Yeah, and, like, you don't really want to know.
Yeah.
You'd really like him to just die.
Well, and I also think the part that makes him great about his creepiness is, like, his feigning of politeness.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, it... And, like, the entire time, it is a creature that is a full puppet. Mm-hmm. Willing to just be that puppet. Like, there's no self-preservation really there.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of his design, he was supposed to be a half-warrior, half-priest, whose foul words had even split his face and were rotting his mouth.
Ooh.
Yeah, so basically, he's kind of what Wormtongue was on the path to be.
Well, Wormtongue had shaved his eyebrows in preparation for this role.
Yeah, and, I mean, we don't know if this guy has eyebrows or not.
We don't know.
We just don't know. That's what happens when you wear a helmet.
And just lips.
Yeah, which, yeah. But I do like his role, even though it's short-lived. I know in the book this doesn't happen this way, but the mithril mail was used as a taunt to cause the rest of the group to feel like all hope had been lost, because they don't know Frodo's fate.
Yeah.
Only the main group knows that, hey, Frodo had a mithril coat.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the only one we know of. And they're just like, oh shit, so are they lying? Are they telling the truth?
Mm-hmm.
Is there nothing left? It's just a great moment of like them not knowing.
Yeah.
And us knowing to begin with, and we're like, shit, you guys keep going, guys.
You're so close.
Yeah, great tension.
It's so good.
But it's also the point where Aragorn is to bring hope.
Yeah.
Where he cuts off.
He's like, I'm done with your bullshit.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not dealing with this shit. We are here for our mission.
Yeah. Whether or not Frodo's got his shiny shirt or not.
Yep. And now we cut back also to Frodo and Sam climbing the Mount Doom, where we get that little nice bit of Hobbiton music.
Yeah, it's like in the background.
Yeah, where Sam's like, we gotta go, Mr. Frodo. I don't think I can. Well, I might not be able to carry your burden, but I can carry you.
Oh, so cute.
But it's
such a powerful moment.
It is a rallying moment because we know that.
Like, Sam is the most faithful hobbit.
Well, and we also know on the other side that everyone, even though their hope is gone, they're relying on them because they are all outnumbered and still going for it. Because as the Black Gates open and everything starts surrounding them.
Yes.
It's not even like...
It is an emptying of Mordor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is just a massive emptying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is the entire force.
Yeah. The bowels of Mordor have been opened. But this scene was just massive. And they also said that it was meant to make Helm's Deep look like a minor skirmish.
Yes.
Of which Helm's Deep had roughly 350,000 people generated,
lot.
or orcs generated.
It's a lot.
Yeah. Jackson also brought up that there was supposed to be about 6,000 horses, which, because he's a fucking nerd.
Of course he is.
He mentioned it's the same number of horses in the Battle of Waterloo.
You know what? I'm glad there's some context, I guess.
It's not just a random number.
Yeah, at least there's some basis to it.
Yeah, but I love this moment because it's very anime-esque and it's framing of friendship.
It is the climax of climaxes.
Yeah, well, and I think also, too, it's the climax of Gimli and Legolas, because Gimli's like, I never thought in all my days I'd die with an elf.
Yeah.
And Legolas is like, what about with a friend? I could do that.
It's such a good line.
It is.
It's such a good line.
And I know we give it shit for being so anime-like, but
it's good.
But there's a reason that those animes are still
popular.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like, there's a reason why the friendship trope is still going.
Yeah.
2 decades later.
Yep. And also, this is the final test of Aragorn's bloodline. It's the test of destiny, of like, can he really lead?
Yes.
And I love... Here's... For me, this is really where I would say the special effects for me peaked.
Yes.
Because in the scaling of Merry and Pippin getting lost in the charge, they feel so perfectly in the movie. They don't feel out of place at all.
They don't feel pasted on top.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did such a great job just bringing it all together, because now we are at the end. We have the doorway to Mount Doom, which is quite cathedral-like in a way, too.
It is. It is.
It's a grandiose entrance for the root of all evil.
Yeah.
Like, this is the... I mean, not the root of all evil in Middle-earth, but it's the root of the current problem.
Yes.
It is the final destination.
We are finally here.
Yep. And we get Gollum's last ambush and Frodo's final push, because as he tackles Sam... Frodo's like, okay, fuck, I gotta do this on my own now, kind of thing. Like, pushes ahead while Sam deals with Gollum and knocks him the fuck out.
Good job, Sam.
Yeah.
Get him. Attack.
But I also like that Sam doesn't stay back to like try and finish the job.
Yeah. No,
Like-
Sam's goal is to be with Frodo.
Yeah. He's like, okay, I've stopped him for a little bit. I'm going to keep going.
Yeah.
And we return to the battle to build up the events. And also we get the inside of the Crack of Doom that the sculpted parts feel very monolithic, kind of like Isengard, where it was
Yes.
carved out of the rock.
Yes.
And in this last moment, we have history almost repeating itself.
I know. It's a good balance between the first movie and this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's a nice tie back and, like, reminding you of, like, how it all went wrong already.
Yep. And the biggest thing, and why Frodo's no one's favorite character,
Fact.
Isildur didn't have a Samwise.
No, he didn't.
He had Elrond.
And
we know
Elrond is a little bitch.
Exactly. And I think it was Nerd of the Rings did a actual pretty good theoretical history of if Isildur had pushed, or if
Elrond had pushed
Yeah.
Isildur.
if Elrond had pushed Isildur.
Yeah.
Why the hell did I blank on his name? Too much. I'm pulling a Gimli right now. But yeah, it's this very history repeating itself moment.
Yes.
Where Frodo shows that despite him having the blood of the rambunctious hobbits, he still also is somewhat tied to men.
Yeah.
That even the purest of people are corruptible.
And also, like, they got here quick, but it still took a really long...
Yeah.
Like, this has been a long burden for Frodo.
Mm-hmm.
We're at the peak of burden problems.
Yeah, it's back to that saying that we've repeated multiple times. Absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Exactly. We are now truly Spider-Man.
Yeah. And so at the same time, because we get this moment where Sam's like, shit, I can't, this is the end. This was all for naught.
Yeah.
But his act, in a way, Frodo's act of kindness and pity unintentionally saves his life.
Yeah, it really does.
Because the climax and the hope as Gollum won kind of is in parallel with Aragorn's following. Because Gollum knocks out Sam, jumps on Frodo and bites his fingers off.
I appreciate that we went ahead and, like, fully left in the missing finger and the blood and stuff. Like, it, like, has a weight to that wouldn't have been there otherwise.
Yeah. Because if he had just pulled it off, it's like, well, you didn't really suffer any consequences.
Or even if Jackson had bothered to be like, no, he had his finger bitten off, but, like, we don't have him holding his bloody hand.
Yeah.
Like, if we had, like, hidden the hand or, like, lessened the blood amount to, like, lower the shock factor, it wouldn't have felt like a true sacrifice. It would have felt like, oh, yeah, you lost a finger.
And the reason that's important is because, well, we got to think of the rating system.
Yeah.
This entire franchise has been PG-13.
Pretty good for all this war.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. The wars are so bloodless, unless it's like an orc, which the orcs are all black-blooded, which...
Doesn't count, most of the time.
Actually, pretty much in everything, as long as it's not, like, actual organic colored or, like...
Yeah.
I learned this from Henry Zabrowski talking about what they could and couldn't show in Your Pretty Face is Going to Hell.
Yeah.
The weird, like, censorship that they have to go through. Like, you can show feces and urine, but it can't be natural colored.
Yeah,
like,
you gotta do something funky with it.
Yeah, just weird shit like that. But yeah, no, that's exactly why it's so important, is so that way we can see that.
Like, this is the ultimate sacrifice he's had for it.
This is the consequence of him failing his duty, basically. But it's such a great use of parallel action. Again, parallel action is that moment in movies where, quick example, man running to airport to meet girl.
Yeah.
He's running, she's about to board. Will they not meet?
Exactly.
The same thing's happening in this moment, but with Aragorn being crushed.
Yes.
And honestly, everything does feel a bit hopeless because Frodo then gets back up and fights Gollum, and they fall over the edge.
Yes.
And we get really, really the cliffhanger scene.
Haha.
But it's also saddening because Gollum is such a tragic character in all of this.
Yes.
he's not an innocent character, but
you still pity him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is, like, ultimately his curse was to end it all. Because really, Gollum's the one that is the reason the ring ends. Yeah. And he dies holding the ring.
Which, I mean, probably what he wanted.
Yeah.
So at least there's that.
Yeah, exactly. He got his end, but you do feel bad. You feel a little bad for his end.
Yeah, because they did a really great job, especially in this movie and in the second one, stringing you along with hope of, like, well, maybe he wasn't really that bad. Yep. Like, even though we've been proven that he was, even though we know that every part of Smeagol and Gollum were bad. Yeah. Like, there's still that, like, potential. Yeah. There's still that hope that, like, there's a little good in everyone.
Exactly. And the reason they put Sam or Frodo over the edge and hanging on by the last grip is so that way the last little bit of hope was potentially going to fall away too. The one who had carried the ring would also face the same fate because of a small mess up, basically. Yeah. And also, like, we see the ring try and hold on that last little bit. We see the words come out, one ring to rule them all.
Trying as best it can to stay afloat.
Try to stay afloat and claim one last victim. Try and get Frodo, because as long as it's there, its power's still going to pull Frodo. Yeah. And it just shows, like, the power of how good Sam is and such a supporting character. Yes. Also, I love that the ring's downfall is because a pair of junkies are fighting over their supply, basically.
Yes, they do.
Yeah. But the ring melts away, saved just in time.
The tower crumbles.
The orcs flee and the tower epically explodes as it collapses.
It's so cool. I'm very glad that the tower crumbling and then explosion are fire-free. Yeah. Because now, instead of feeling like, oh, the eye went kapoom, it now feels like the magic has evaporated.
It's that Death Star moment where, like, the Death Star explodes, of which I do want to talk about how they got about doing that. There was no practical way to destroy the Barad-dûr model and make it look convincing. Yeah. And Weta's conceptual digital visualist member, Gray Horsfeld, spent his entire Christmas break methodically making the model out of 800,000 handcrafted polygon surfaces. Damn. Which he built to fall apart like glass.
That's why it looks so cool.
Exactly. They wanted it to, like, nothing had it, here, to give perspective, nothing like this had ever been done. And they had to use custom sets of sequencings to fight how the computer wanted to work. Nice. So, I mean, it took a lot. Because it's
a lot.
It is a stunning effect. Yes. Like, and that's the crazy thing, too, is, like, it holds up so well because it's not, and that's the weird thing, too, is because it's not a practical effect. Yeah. But it feels like it is.
Yes. Yeah, if you had told me that that was actually a tower, that they had somehow managed to get to do that, I would have been like, yeah, of course.
Well, and I also love that they didn't just let it collapse, and the collapsing was a shockwave. Like, it explodes halfway down its fall. Yes. Yeah. It just...
The magic holding it together is collapsed. Yeah.
And now it can't rebuild on top of it. Exactly. Because, as we said, the foundation's tied to the ring.
And there is no more ring.
And there's no more Sauron.
Hooray.
Yeah. Actually, no. I think Sauron did shed his immortal form. So I think Sauron is dead.
Dead. Super dead.
Yeah. But now Mordor falls into ruin as Mount Doom begins to erupt. Epic crevices around the survivors and just
eats the orcs. Like, the earth consumes the orcs. It's so cool.
It is a beautiful moment.
It really is. And
it's even more epic because Frodo is much more alive.
He's not dead.
Yeah. Well, and we see how raw his neck really is. Yes. And now they technically could go home, but now they can't.
There's lava everywhere.
They're trapped, and they barely escape, too. Yeah. Which, the effect for that was pretty cool. They used, like, some polymer over, like, a light board to get the effect to work, which...
It looks good.
But I love this little bit at the end of it all, because Frodo's burden's lifted, and he's just talking about like how he doesn't remember the taste of food, he doesn't remember the Shire, he doesn't remember anything. But at the same time, it's his turn to console Sam.
Yeah, he's ready to go home.
Yeah, and Sam's on the breaking point, and that's where their friendship dynamic is the strongest. Is that they stuck through it to the end, and now that Sam's helped him overcome his issues, now Frodo can actually be the friend that he needs to be to Sam.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and also I learned from this that the turn of events is called eucastrophe.
Huh.
It's the opposite of disaster. Catastrophe.
Okay.
It's the opposite of catastrophe. But all is not lost. The Eagles are to the rescue.
Ooh, once again.
In a very cool moment.
Yes.
Frodo awakens to Gandalf and his friends in some stupidly impractical shutters behind him.
Yes, okay. Now we can get to the part where I get to bitch about this.
Yes.
The endings. The multiple endings of this movie, which I get. And I explained over and over last night to my husband why they were important. Because he hates the multiple endings of this movie.
A lot of people do, apparently.
And, like, I can understand. And I think the reason why the endings don't hold the way the rest of the movie does is because the pacing that the rest of this movie has had has been fairly quick.
Mm-hmm.
Even when we're having breaks, somewhere else in the movie, stuff is happening. But now we're ending it like you would a play, where each character gets to be introduced and, like, the audience claps because that actor did great. And, like, I get it. And, like, I do think that it's an important part.
Yeah.
And I think if there had been a slight repacing of events, this would have been less of a issue for people, because we have this nice ending, right?
And we've still got about 20 minutes
and
of the actual movie left. Yeah.
And the rest of the pacing doesn't match this pacing. This is like the slowest of slow re-entry, because we're slow-mo half the time. We've got weird, like, each group coming in individually, and there's no real dialogue.
Well, okay, here's my thing. I don't think it ends too slowly. I don't think the ending is that dragged out. But let me ask you something.
Mm-hmm.
Which would you have preferred? Would you have preferred the end credits? Frodo returned to the Shire and finished his book. Sam returned to the Shire and married what's her name?
No, okay, I like the part after this sequence.
Oh.
I like where we get to see the crowning of Aragorn.
Oh, you're talking about this specific scene itself.
This specific scene breaks the flow.
Well...
But I know we have... Like, there's nowhere else to put this sucker.
But I like it because it shows that Frodo is healing. Because he's definitely been out for a long time. Because Sam does appear at the end of that scene.
Yes.
And Sam's already back to himself.
Yes.
But... for me, this is important because it's not it's not glossing over a bunch of stuff where for me this is everyone realizing it's going to be okay. Frodo's made it through, but also Frodo and Sam have, or at least neither of them before the scene, Frodo didn't know that Gandalf was back either.
That's true.
And we know Gandalf is Frodo's favorite person.
Yeah, that's true.
Frodo is Ellie
and Brian.
Or no, Gandalf is Ellie to your Brian.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is very true. I think what potentially would have helped a little bit is I like Jackson's initial fade to white and then fade back in.
Yeah.
That feels very, like, disorienting and, like, a good representation of, like, losing consciousness and then coming back into it slowly.
Yeah.
But it hangs on to that blinding whiteness for this whole scene. And so all of it feels like in a dream almost.
Okay. So your qualm is more with the lighting and the
and then,
effect.
like, slow motionness of it all. I feel
another slow motion hater.
For this scene specifically, yes, definitely.
Well,
I like it initially when we see Gandalf, because this does all feel like we're coming out of a long sleep.
If they had sped it up back to normal speed that.
If we had come back to normal coloring and like some normal speed, by the time Legolas at least gets in the room.
If it wasn't slow-mo pillow fight on the bed between the hobbits.
Yes. That right there is my complaint for this whole movie, and this is my favorite
Your
one.
complaint because it's in slow motion and there's not jiggly bits to go over.
Fact.
Yes, that's your complaint.
That is my complaint.
Good complaint though. I'm sure there is a parody out there.
I have no doubt in my mind.
I found out there's a Friday the 13th parody of that nature.
I'm sure there's more than one.
Yeah.
The rules have established. If it is a thing that you have thought of, it is already porn.
Yeah, probably. I honestly don't want to think about Lord of the Rings porn, honestly.
I know it exists.
I know it exists too.
The law of physics dictates that it must.
The law of perverts.
The law of the internet.
Yeah, poivoited. Yeah.
One of these days I'm going to get you to watch the musical Avenue Q with me so that you can sing the song with me. The internet is really, really great for porn.
Okay. I'll get to Avenue Q at some point, but...
Watch it with Brian. He loves it. It's hilarious. It's Sesame Street for adults.
I know what Avenue Q is. My goal with musicals is to force your husband to watch musicals he'll hate.
He likes that one, so I'm sorry.
I know. I'm aware. I've got one that he'll hate. But from the reuniting, we cut to the crowning of Aragorn. The white tree is in full bloom, and he gets his girl.
It's all very nice, but once again, we have decided to make Aragorn look chunky.
Yeah.
The belt is in the wrong spot. It's too high up the back, and it's like hugging the gut underneath.
It's the velvety outfit again.
Yeah. I get it. Velvet would have been a rich, like, expensive fabric back then, only for the highest of royalty.
But you have to admit, the color of it works much better with his overall outfit than the first time we see him in his velvety bullshit.
I completely agree. This color scheme is much, much better.
Yeah.
I also do kind of like that by this point, Aragorn already feels like he's aged. Like, he already feels like he is tired of the world and Hobbit bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, the weight of that crown, like, already feels like it's holding him down, but not necessarily in a bad way. It finally feels like he's no longer, like, running from himself.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very much so him. He's overcome his, like, Herculean trials.
Exactly.
And so now it's time for him to actually shine. Of which, all of this was filmed in the last 24 hours of principal photography. Which, may I remind you, all 3 of these movies were shot in 14 months.
It's so fast.
Yeah. But so well done.
Yes.
Also, there are feather motifs in his crown.
Of course.
But his crown also feels different because it's more of a mix of men and elves, where it's heavy like the other king's crowns, but it's low sitting more like a circlet.
Yes, it definitely feels like a blending of the styles.
Yeah, kind of like his inbred heritage that he's about to create.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
That child might not be real. We'll find out.
Or will we?
That inbred child.
A very nice rectangular child.
Oh no.
Which I do love the Hobbit attire.
I do too.
It's regal while feeling very country-esque.
It feels like fancy for them.
Yeah.
Like, this is their fancy dress.
Yeah.
And I like it.
It's cute. It's quaint.
It
Quaint's
is quaint.
the term.
It is quaint.
Yeah. Which I love. That's what's great about this moment is that when everyone's bowing and Aragorn reaches out to them, and of course this is a lot of people's favorite scenes is you bow to no one. Yes. And then everyone bows to them, like 4 of the most unsuspecting people in the world.
My favorite scene by far in this movie is right here.
Mm-hmm.
Not because of how powerful it is, but because of how smirky Pippin fucking looks. Pippin has this look on his face the whole time like, yeah, bow, peasants.
Well, and honestly, I think it's more geared towards Frodo and Sam than Merry and Pippin.
Probably, but Pippin's on the side being like, "Yeah, fuckers, I'm Thane of Shire now."
But they're all together and why they're all bowing. But I mean, at the same time, if it wasn't for Pippin, Denethor's line would have been ended. Merry,
Merry did stuff.
He did stuff, but
Merry's now tall.
Merry brought the Ents into action.
Yes. They, like, in their own ways, all four of them are the reason that Middle-earth continues.
Yeah. And Aragorn, too, which he's the only one who probably maybe didn't need to bow down to the other four. But
probably, but
lead by example.
Exactly. He's a nice guy.
Which... a great scene as we have the last map transition as Frodo narrates their journey back home.
Yes.
Where the hobbits back home haven't changed, but all the others did. The way they return is quite... It's a retelling... It's parallel to Gandalf re-entering the Shire.
Yes.
But this time they look regal.
Yes.
And like you said, Pippin is looking down on all the other hobbits. Actually, they both are, because remember, they are now the tallest hobbits that ever lived, so they are always looking down on the hobbits.
And this becomes Merry's claim to fame, the tallest hobbit.
It's a nice change, because we do see some of the changes as they settle back home. Sam is no longer the timid, bumbling hobbit. He goes to...
He asks his lady friend out.
Primrose, I think her name is, or something.
Mary something.
But the biggest change that I didn't catch on to until rewatching this, probably like the third or fourth time, is that Bag End is still cozy, but it's also dead and dull.
Yes.
The lighting of it is so different from the first time we saw it.
It's no longer Bilbo's home.
Well,
it's Frodo's.
It's not. It doesn't even feel like Frodo's home. It just feels like a house that he's inhabiting.
Which is how Bilbo felt, with the exception of Frodo being there.
Yeah.
Like, they both have realized that this isn't their place anymore.
Yeah. And now Frodo has finished his portion of the Red Book. But his wound from the Morgul blade still hurts as Sam visits him. And Sam's happy that he's finished his book. It's like, oh, you finished your book, Mr. Frodo. Which, it's nice.
I love that he still calls it Mr. Frodo.
Yeah, he's still technically his gardener.
Technically.
Technically boss friend.
Boss friend. Like to remind you I carried you up a mountain.
Remind you, if you weren't here, I could have just let you fall into that pit, you bitch. But, this also... And this is a part I don't think it was conveyed as well. It's to show that Frodo is still sick. Yeah. And he's not getting better.
Yeah. This was all too much for Frodo. Yeah.
Like the Morgul blade did its thing, but it's not really the Morgul blade that has caused it. It's Frodo's burden in carrying the world on his shoulders that's changed him. The Shire's...
He's no longer the hobbit he was.
Yeah, that's true. But it's how when Bilbo said that he wants Frodo to experience the world, but Frodo's still in love with the Shire.
Yeah.
Frodo sees the world and returns and is no longer in love with the Shire. Yeah. And that's kind of
that's the one downfall of the hobbits.
Yeah.
Once they have tired of, once they no longer feel the love of the Shire, they don't have that ability to bounce back.
Well, and it's not even that. I don't think it's that Frodo doesn't love the Shire. He still has a place for it in his heart, but he knows that he just doesn't belong there anymore is the thing. It's not that he doesn't love it. It's just that... It's not
a full circle anymore.
No. Yeah. No, he's trapped. And, his book's done, his work's done, and he says there's still a little room left. Mm-hmm. And now it's time for goodbyes and... the final journey home. We cut to the where they're leaving Middle Earth, where we find out that some people are leaving Middle Earth. We see Bilbo and the dark of everything. We're senile at this point. He's like, "Do you still have my ring? I wish I could have seen it one last time."
Poor old Bilbo.
Which I don't think Bilbo even knows why they're traveling. No. That's how senile he feels.
It also brings to question if Elrond ever really, kept explaining it to him at some point. Or if it's just kind of been like a, let the old man be.
Yeah. I think that's really what it was, because And maybe that's partially why Elrond stayed behind, was to look after Bilbo.
Someone had to. Like, he did so much for them. They can't just leave him on his own senile way.
Because we know he came from Rivendell.
Yeah.
Which, that's the last place we saw him, where he mentioned that he doesn't think he'll ever see the Misty Mountains again.
Yeah.
Or the Lone Mountain again. So he's never going to see... We know he's never made it to see his friends again, kind of thing. But finally we arrive at the Grey Havens, which... I'll go quickly into it just because we don't see them long, but it's the end. The Havens are a very early Elvish look. It was an Elvish seaport, which is why it has the heavy feeling, but still has like the early Celtic Elvish style.
Yes.
And so at the Grey Havens, Galadriel mentions that the Elvish rings of power have ended, and so has their time on Middle Earth. Also of note, I forgot to bring this up in the Two Towers episode. Gandalf is a carrier of one of the Rings of Power.
Of course the fucker is.
He was given it when he came to Middle-earth. I can't remember the elf's name, but he gave him the fire ring of the elves. And the fire ring helps drive out evil from people's hearts. So that's partly my theory of why Gandalf is able to dispel the evil from Theoden.
Ah, yeah, I'll take it.
I'd originally thought to put it in, and then by the time I got to outlining, I kind of forgot about it until this moment. And we had already recorded those episodes, so little note there. But I also like this scene that all tears are not evil.
Yes, this is a good reminder.
Yeah, and I do get a little teary at this part.
It's a good ending.
It still makes me tear up, even and honestly, so I bawled my eyes out because for those who haven't seen it, if you've stuck with this long without seeing the movie,
how?
I don't know, but when I realized like this was the end, I didn't realize Lord of the Rings was a trilogy. I thought it was like a series of movies and stuff. And then when they're leaving, I started bawling my eyes out.
Yeah.
I had just moved back to the States, and my Uncle Greg was an MVP. My brothers looked over at me and they're like, "Are you crying?" And my uncle was sitting next to me. He's like, "Yeah, I accidentally stepped on his foot really hard." But
good job, Uncle.
I mean, it still is an emotional journey for me. I mean, this
is a really solid wrap up to a lot of like the final questions that people have for Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, because it's all about Frodo sacrificing himself for the home that he loves but no longer belongs in.
Yeah.
And also I just think he had no future in the Shire with everything because we don't...
His purpose was over.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like Bilbo said, like after holding the ring for a certain amount, you just start to feel like you're spread too thin. Like your life isn't really there anymore.
Yeah. And honestly, I feel worse for his friends though.
Yeah.
Because you clearly see that he didn't tell them at all.
Like the rest of the Shire goes on like nothing has happened.
Yeah. And it's just
like Sam is probably the only one who really knows. Sam, Frodo.
No, it doesn't look like Sam knew at all. Like he just sprung this on them of like, I think he probably did it so that way they don't try and keep him to stay.
Oh, that's a good point.
Because they're already there and they're like, okay, he's made up his mind. And for those who don't know, because the movie never explains it, the only people who are allowed to go to the Undying Lands are the elves, the wizards, and the ring bearers.
Yes. Which
consists of Bilbo, Frodo, and eventually Samwise way down the line.
Yay, go Sam.
You gotta live with the elves for a while.
It's what he wanted.
Elf weeb heaven.
Yes, he's finally getting to move to Japan.
The Undying Lands of Japan. But it's... I mean, and that's I do like that. Even though they sail off, that's not where the movie ends. Mm-hmm. That we close on Sam returning to his family, and we realize that really this whole saga hasn't even really been about Frodo. It's more so Sam's there and back again story.
It really is.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean,
because like from the get-go, Sam arguably has more dogs in this fight than Frodo. Because from the get-go, Frodo's kind of painted as like, yeah, he's kind of a weird hobbit, kind of like how Bilbo was.
Yeah.
Doesn't really have a ton of actual friends. It's mostly Sam.
Yeah.
And Sam's over here like, no, plan on, like, you know, making myself a proper hobbit. Like,
Yeah.
I've got my garden. I've got a girl I got a crush on. Like, Sam has always felt more of a hobbit than Frodo.
And at the same time, Sam had something to return to, even though he hadn't sealed the deal per se.
Yeah.
He had hopes and aspirations to return to. Where,
yeah, Frodo left without those. Like, when he came back, he didn't have any plans.
Well, because Frodo's aspirations were to see the world, and he did.
Yeah, he saw all of it, damn it.
A good chunk of it, and at the same time, like, his journeys are over. He doesn't want to go back out.
Once he's completed the thing he wanted to do.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's a fitting end.
I do too.
It kind of ends where it starts a little bit.
But that's kind of Lord of the Rings, though.
Yeah.
It's always kind of, everything's always going in circles.
Yeah, it's a beautiful return. And before we get on to the legacy of this, I mean, we've already talked about the too many endings, but
yeah.
I do like that Jackson mentioned that, in his opinion, there's not too many endings. Because it's not just one ending, it's an ending to 3 movies.
That's true. He has a point.
Yeah, because, I mean, hell, we don't, at the end, after the crowning, we see absolutely nothing of Aragorn and Legolas. We don't hear what happens to them.
True.
So they're all kind of put to the side. Like, really, the ending of the movies are Sam's ending, Aragorn's ending, and Frodo and Bilbo's ending.
Yeah. And honestly, we had forgotten about Bilbo.
Yeah, which Bilbo's ending is Frodo's ending.
Yes.
So it's this weird, well, and also the fall of the Barad-dûr.
Yeah.
Kind of ending. But yeah, and I also like that at the end of the credits, they brought back a nod to the 80s movie credits where they showed portraits, which all of those were drawn by Alan Lee.
Yeah.
Of the actors and their roles. And I know we've mentioned this before. Bring back those kind of credits.
Yeah, I love them.
They are, especially like with movies like this that are so stylistically done that they do a good job with it.
I agree.
And so that's the end of the Lord of the Rings, the movies.
Yay! But what about all the stuff afterwards?
Oh, it set off so much. I mean, we have symphony tours, video games, a resurrection of the series. Because honestly, I wouldn't have read this series if I hadn't watched Lord of the Rings.
I think most people of our generation and below would not have read the books.
Yeah, it swept the 76 Academy Awards. Not that those mean much, but it's still an honor to have. Like,
it was recognized for what they did.
I think, and this is just my personal opinion on these award ceremonies. They're fine. It's good to recognize it. But it's when a movie truly sweeps.
That's when you know.
The ceremony is when you know that this is a definitive point in movie history.
It really is.
Especially this and, like, more recently Parasite.
Yeah.
Just having those groundbreaking movies that completely shift perspective in cinema.
Yes.
Because Lord of the Rings is so integrated into our history and world history and it becoming a cultural icon.
Yeah, like, it is to the point where even people who have not seen or do not regularly watch Lord of the Rings know the terms from it. They know the imagery from it.
Yeah, well, most people do.
Most people.
Yeah, I've mentioned my Ent of a friend.
Yes, bless him. He's living under a boulder. Large boulder. Yeah.
But, I mean, I don't know. It's hard not to look at Lord of the Rings with rose-tinted glasses, I'd say.
Very true.
But at the same time, we went into it in a different route as well, where we were studying the styles and the history and the influences from the get-go. So
yeah, that's true.
I think we picked it apart a little bit differently than most, because most of the bitching I've heard from it is that Lord of the Rings set up a bunch of nerds.
Yes.
Or upset a bunch of nerds because it wasn't faithful enough and it was full of cheap thrills.
Whatever. Those cheap thrills were fun as hell.
Yeah, and that's the thing they forget is that books are so introspective and books can be dry and entertaining, but movies have a much harder time doing that.
Yes.
One of the nerds being Tolkien's son, Christopher Tolkien. And also on the other side within the Tolkien family, Christopher's son, Simon Tolkien, who viewed the movies in a much more positive light and thought that his family should address them as such and not try and pigeonhole them into what the books need to be.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's you're gonna find people on both sides. Sometimes, yeah, it's too long, or sometimes it's not interesting for them, and that's fine.
Sure.
I mean, some people don't like high fantasy. A lot of people don't like sci-fi.
Yeah.
Just how it is. But also just talking about influence. First off, Tolkien was very upset that people were naming or were getting married in Lord of the Rings attire and naming children after his characters.
I can understand that.
Yeah, which I also find interesting because, and I think if Tolkien had seen these, he probably would have understood that the changes that were made. And I feel if he was alive, he would have probably talked to, or Jackson would have talked to him and been like, hey, here's why I'm doing this and why.
Oh, definitely.
But I find this interesting because Tolkien had feared that his works will not be read to begin with. And I still also, I do wonder what he thought of the final outcome, because what he wanted to create work that was a framework to continue and expand his dream of works. And for while I know Tolkien had not intended to write an allegorical story about wars, nor do I think they are about wars, I think the reason his stories have endeared is because, like the fairy tales and mythologies he was expanding upon and pulling from, we were able to extrapolate lessons and apply them to modern life. And that's what Jackson did, is he took this framework. And I think that's why Tolkien would have appreciated his adaptations, because he took it and he adapted it for a medium that Tolkien was not familiar with.
And I also think that the passion that Tolkien had for wanting this to be a framework for others to envision this fantasy world, this place of possibilities.
Yeah.
I think the movies represent that really well. Yeah, they're not necessarily a continuation on that, or even a self redone of that. I think how Tolkien's estate wants people to take it.
Yeah.
But I think it's enough of a change that it brought them into the modern world and context with the same fervent and energy that the books originally had.
Yeah.
Because an old book can be good, but it is almost impossible for that old book to remain as good and have the love and fandom behind it.
Yes.
If it is not somehow brought into new medium.
Exactly.
A good example is Dracula. Yes, Dracula the book is good, but without the new Dracula re-envisionings and mediums, I don't think people would read it very much.
No, and that's the thing too, especially having recently finished the Universal Classic Monsters collection. I completely understand that, because there are so many people I've come across where I'm like, oh yeah, it's an old movie, it's in black and white, and they're like, oh, I don't watch black and white movies.
Yep. It's like pulling teeth to get people to watch them.
Yeah, and even more so silent movies.
Yep. And then when you try and recommend books to people, it's worse.
Yeah.
Because at least with a movie, you can trick people into watching them if you really have to. Or you can convince them into it, hey, we're having a group night, we're wanting to study this French film, I know you're not interested, but do you want to at least have burgers?
Yeah.
You can gather people behind it if you have to.
Or on the opposite side of us, 2 weeks ago, in convincing your husband not to watch the house that Jack built because he would not.
It was not what he thought it was.
No, I know exactly it was not what he thought it was.
No. But I feel like with movies, that's one of the joys of movies.
Yeah.
Is that you can trick people into getting to it eventually. It's almost impossible to do that with books, though.
Yeah.
So, if you're trying to say, oh, this book is spectacular, but it's written in old speak and it's dense, and its biggest criticism by every person who reads it is that it's too frickin' detailed and there's some weird...
dry.
And it's dry. But it's one of the best stories I've ever written.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard to convey that.
Yeah, and there is a certain amount of time put into reading books like this and appreciating them and then reworking them into your own imagination.
Yep.
That movies cut out that middleman and reopen that path for people.
Yeah. And on top of that, speaking of opening paths, Lord of the Rings was really the start of a resurgence of multi-part, or in a way, serial movies in the United States, where they were based more around book series. Because we've talked about serial movies before, very briefly, a long time ago in our Zatoichi episode.
Yes.
Well, specifically Zatoichi meets the Book of Eli.
Yes.
But where in Japan, serial movies tend to be... They're not really a thing anymore either, but they used to be, especially up into like the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
Where you have a series and it's focused around like one set of characters for like 5 to 28 or 26 films like Zatoichi.
Think like James Bond, kind of.
Yeah, very much so like James Bond, but James Bond is based off of a book series.
Exactly.
And even then, each one of the books is its own kind of separate story. It's not a continuation. It's not a serial. Basically, television took over the serial films in the U.S.
Exactly.
And in Japan, television took longer to take on than movies did. And that's why serial movies lasted for so long. But without Lord of the Rings, I don't think we would have had we wouldn't have a paving for Harry Potter.
No, definitely
not. Hunger Games. Any of those, Percy Jackson.
Like, there's been such a wave of currently specifically YA books being turned into movies, and like they're good, like the concepts are good. We've noticed that like they're good, but there's not the tension and passion behind them that there was with Lord of the Rings. But honestly, I'll take it, anything to get like new stuff on screen, and then learning like, oh, it's a book, great, I'm gonna go read all 8 of them. Yeah,
exactly. And I mean, I've been thinking about it a lot, because I mean, we've spent months on this series.
Yeah.
Just preparing and getting ready for it. And I was watching a punk rock NBA video about how the technicality of progressive rock and metal is kind of killing the genre.
Sure, okay.
And I think that applies to Jackson's adaptations as well. Is the more you try and make it technically correct, technically interesting, technically accurate, Jackson boiled it down to the simplest stories, with a little bit of sprinkling of lore here and there he wasn't adding complexity for complexity's sake.
He's whetting the appetite.
Yeah, just getting context in there, and also somewhat trying to appease the fan nerds.
The balance is really the key, and like that balance is kind of hard to find.
And it's the same thing in the first Silent Hill movie, where it did a really great job of balancing it. Yeah, some of it's dumb, but it's still a fantastic adaptation.
Yes.
But also, I mean, Lord of the Rings is... And we weirdly picked a handful of movies that are not stylistically similar. And maybe thematically, too. Because Lord of the Rings at times is very much like Pan's Labyrinth at the end.
Yes.
Where it's not about Jackson, it's not about Tolkien. It's about what the story tells you about yourself.
Yes.
Who you attach to, who you're interested in, and what you move on to.
It's one of the joys of having that many characters.
Yeah.
Over such a long time span.
Oh, yeah. And, I mean, there's just so much to it. And I do apologize if we missed anything.
There's so much.
Yeah. And, I mean, there's multiple things I hear about with, like... Well, the fun aspect of, like, many people bonded with their horses. Mortensen bought his own, and also bought a horse for, like, the horse tamer who couldn't afford the horse.
Half the group all got tattoos together.
Yeah, with the Elvish for friend.
Yeah.
And there's just so much to it. And honestly, I believe, like, because Jackson mentioned in the commentary that he was thinking about maybe doing a war movie at some point.
Yeah.
Which I think heavily inspired him making They Shall Not Grow Old.
I think so too.
And the other thing I think that's important is that while New Line had their say on certain things, it always came down to the fact that it was Jackson's movie and Jackson's cut.
Yes.
And I also appreciate that Jackson mentioned that there is no definitive edition, which I think is what's most important. Yes, as an audience, we can think, oh, the extended editions are the most important one.
But multiple times
it's the definitive.
Yeah, but multiple times it's even Jackson himself is like, no, I like the theatrical better.
Yeah, and that's one thing that Jackson said was how he handled the Army of the Dead.
Mm-hmm.
He liked the theatrical cut of that one much better than the director's one, but the director's one was technically more accurate to
the books.
To the books.
And he's mentioned multiple times in multiple interviews that he had cut so much stuff and left so much stuff out that, like, he constantly jokes about making more.
Yeah.
Just to fill out these 3.
Yeah, and yeah, there's
so much.
Yeah, and honestly, we could easily go back and do a retrospective, like 4 or 5 years down the line, and redo the series and come across with a bunch of other stuff.
Oh, definitely.
And one sentiment that I like is that, on top of Jackson not thinking there's a definitive edition, there were multiple times in the commentary where the sentiment of the effects crew is like, yeah, we know some of these aren't going to age well, but we did the best for what we could at the time.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's cinematic storytelling to the point where it's not shallow, and it covers a deep source in a relatively short time.
And honestly, the Lord of the Rings franchise is one of those franchises that has the right and honor to be revisited every major technology change.
Yeah.
Which is what we've seen happen. We've seen the different iterations of it happen every time someone thought, now we have the ability.
Yeah.
Even if that ability was off or bad, the chance was there.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, yeah, sure, some of this isn't going to age well, but by the time it looks real old and real bad,
yeah,
hopefully we'll be at a point where it's time to do it again.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing, is and as you mentioned previously, the way to bring stories back into the modern audience is having to reinterpret and adapt them to the new changes and make it more appropriate. But with Lord of the Rings, I don't think we'll ever get something of this caliber again.
No, we will never have this pinnacle ever again, because it was just, there was too many variables that all happened to align.
Yeah.
There was too many people involved who were in just the right place at just the right time.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I don't think we're ever going to get this monumentous piece ever again. But I do think, just like what we're seeing with the TV, because right now we're at a point in history where movies aren't really the way forward. It's TV right now.
Television and video games, because there's a lot of film directors who are moving to video games now.
Yeah, and so, like, I think while I don't think we'll ever see this level, this depth, this historic moment in movies ever again.
Yeah.
I do think that the reinterpretation of Lord of the Rings is going to happen eventually.
Yeah, I mean...
And it's going to change to whatever format is in the future.
Yeah, I mean, it has to, or it's going to have a continuation. Hell, we might start in the Fourth Age.
Yeah. Hell,
who knows? But, I mean, for me personally, looking back on this franchise, and I was talking to my brother about it quite a bit the other day, we both love Star Wars.
Yes. But
Star Wars, to us, even though it has its Japanese and Kurosawa influences, is very bubblegum to us.
Mm-hmm.
Where Lord of the Rings has a much deeper depth of wealth to the entire thing.
Yes.
And there's a reason it still sticks with you. Whereas Star Wars, yeah, I'm a fandom of both. But I am much more a hardcore Lord of the Rings fan than I am Star Wars.
Yes, and I think part of that reason is because, and I've had to defend myself on this argument many times, because I have family who are diehard Star Wars.
I know, your family's ridiculous about Star Wars.
Which is great. Like, that's, for them, their piece, right?
Yeah.
But for them, the reason that resonates with them is because each new Star Wars is a layer to the Star Wars, right? Like, each new telling adds depth to a character. Each new telling adds history, which is great. But for me, I don't need that.
Yeah.
For me, I want it all presented as one for me to peel apart. And that's what Lord of the Rings gives me.
No, exactly. And that's the thing, is it's such a rich world.
Yes.
And Star Wars is rich, but it takes a lot more to get there than what they did here.
Yes.
And that's the thing, too, is, and it's completely different, because Lord of the Rings was a complete
Yes, it was already finished.
It's like how The Hobbit, if you're reading The Hobbit is very...
It's kid. It's childish.
Yeah, childish comparison. But it still is a starting point. Same with Star Wars Episode 4.
Yes. I know people hate it, but I like it.
Oh, I do too. But like Lord of the Rings is such a complete story from beginning to end.
Yes.
Is what it is. And I think that's the biggest thing because Star Wars was written as they went along. It wasn't mapped out.
Yeah.
Which makes the very...
it makes it layered.
Sister kissing. Well,
we had that in ours. Cousin fucking.
Yeah, lots of cousins, but they're cousins.
They're distanter cousins.
It's acceptable down here in the South.
You're not technically wrong.
No. Well, it depends where you're at, too. I'm sure they hate that stereotype. So, I guess for me at the end of this, Chris, I'm going to ask you a couple questions.
Oh, I love questions.
Because we had talked about this a little bit.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
What is your 100% favorite Lord of the Rings movie?
Oh, for me it is Return of the King. I know I bitched about the ending, but I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, I love the battle scenes. I love the monsters in it. I feel like it's the most refined as far as visual.
Yeah.
And also, I like the pacing of it the most.
Okay. Yeah, I love it for all those aspects, too. I do have to say, I am still very much torn between on my side, between Return of the King and The Fellowship.
Yeah, I can totally understand The Fellowship. And
I like them for different aspects. And if I have to put pen to paper, I would say probably Return of the King is hands down my favorite.
Sure.
Just because of the advance of its technical aspects, the building of the end, and just the sentimentality I have towards it. Mm-hmm. Whereas Fellowship for me is the peak fantasy movie.
Yes, I can totally agree
because
with
it feels the most magical compared to the rest of the franchise.
Yes. Despite
physically seeing magic in the final movie, it
has that vibe to it.
Yeah. It has a very lighthearted feeling, and I think it just depends on what mood I'm in, honestly.
I can understand that.
I think Return of the King is, I will say, probably my favorite in it. But Fellowship is a very, very close second, and The Two Towers is a awkward third.
Yes, it is. It is there to bridge the two.
Yeah, and it does a great job at it too. Like, it does a great job. I mean, I love the Ents. I love the Ent scene.
Like, if it's on, I'm watching it.
Yeah.
But then I need to go watch the other two.
Exactly. And so, another question in that regard too.
Yes.
Who is your favorite character and why?
Oh, my favorite character has been since day one, the moment that man hits screen, is Aragorn. I desire to be Aragorn. He is
a handsome man.
He's a handsome man, but also the journey of Aragorn is my favorite out of all of the characters. I love the arc of, like, knowing your purpose, but not necessarily how to fulfill it and feeling that that's correct and right.
Yeah.
And I also really like just how nicely his story wraps up.
Okay.
Like, it feels like a good fairy tale story to me.
Yeah, that is a good aspect of that too. Yeah, I mean, I love Aragorn too, but he's definitely not my favorite.
I can understand.
Can you guess I have two favorites.
Is it Merry and Pippin?
It is not. It is not. I was thinking something along those lines because Sugi asked me this question, and that's why I wanted to bring it up. And he knows the answer. My two favorite characters, one, Gimli.
Fair.
He is the right amount of serious and fuckery.
Yes, he is.
And the other character is in the similar vein. Gandalf the Grey.
Yes.
I'm thinking of specifically Gandalf the Grey in the Shire.
The first one.
Not when he turned white.
I can understand that.
He has such a rod up his ass.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's not as fun as Gandalf the Grey, who Gandalf the Grey is who I've aspired to be for a long time. He
is the epitome of fuck-arounding and finding out.
Yes. Actually, yes. He's the one who discovers that the ring is the ring of power, and...
Yeah. I can totally get it.
Yeah. Gandalf the Grey is hands down top, and then Gimli's a very close second, especially with his dipshittery.
Yes, Gimli will forever hold a special place in our hearts.
And so we've kind of put our own rankings to these movies.
Yes.
And how we normally end this, we bring up, would you recommend the movie, Chris?
Well, obviously.
Yes. I don't think we need to...
No, we've hyped on this for months to everyone we know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
you need to watch, if you haven't watched them, watch all three. And if you've listened to this point,
do it anyway.
Yeah. And honestly, if you haven't seen them, because that was my case about a year ago when we started down this journey, was I hadn't seen them probably in a good half decade because I put a bunch of other stuff ahead.
Sure. And they're definitely one of those movies where like you feel like you've already seen it.
Yeah.
It's easy to not rewatch.
Yeah, and so I think it's one of those ones where you 100%, if you haven't listened to it or seen it in a while, go back and rewatch it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, honestly, I kind of want to end... I want to end the series on probably the best monologue in the entire franchise.
Yes.
And it's Sam's monologue from the end of the second movie that I think just sums up everything. Mm-hmm. And why this series is so great. And it goes, it's like in the great stories, Mr. Frodo, the ones that really matter, full of darkness and danger full of darkness and danger they were sometimes. You didn't know the ending because how could the end, or you didn't want to know the ending because how could the end be happy? How could the world go back to the way it was when so much bad happened? But in the end, it's only a passing thing, this shadow. Even darkness must pass. A new day will come, and when the sun shines, it will shine out the clearer. Those are the stories that stay with you, that meant something, even if you were too small to understand why. But I think, Mr. Frodo, I do understand. I know now. Folk in those stories had a lot of chances of turning back, only they didn't. They kept going on because they were holding on to something. That there is the meaning, that there is something good in the world and it's worth fighting for. And I think that really sums up why Lord of the Rings is such a compelling and driving movie even to today. I
completely agree.
Yeah, but anywho, I guess this has been the good, the bad, and the weird covering of the Lord of the Rings.
Thanks for listening.
And thank you all for listening as well from me, and just want to let you know, for all you listeners, you bow to no one. We really appreciate you guys sticking through this with us. It's been a journey, and I'm glad we were able to hopefully try and put a unique spin on this series that's been done a million times.
Definitely. But we love it nonetheless.
Yeah. Anywho, thanks for listening.
Peace.